Ted? Hello, Ted.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Yep, we're good. Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
It's going out.
We're good.
Okay.
We are good.
All right.
I forgot to turn my camera on. Ted, are we live? Hello, Ted.
Yes, you are live. You are live. Listening to the audio streaming through.
There's only two of us here today. But let me get this straight. I do not enjoy being here. I hate doing this. It's embarrassing. You know, I'm ashamed as an American to have to do this. I'm not out here for my own glorification. I'd rather be writing instrumental music. But somebody has to do this, be out here helping to expose our corrupt government. We are decades and more likely centuries behind where we should be and would be if our Congress had not exiled the U.S. Constitution in so many ways. This city, D.C., is occupied by so many federal agencies that should not even exist, that are eating out our substance, as Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence. We just have a different set of characters occupying this city. Whereas 240 years ago, it was the British. Now we're still occupied by traitors behind me in that building and all throughout the city who don't follow their oaths of office. These people behind me in the Congress, they think they can pass legislation on anything if a majority votes for it. They're out of control. It's not just families today who've been exiled. We've exiled the framers of our Constitution. Read Judge Andrew Napolitano's book, The Constitution in Exile. I want to make sure I'm as loud as I can go out here. Yeah, if you want to find out just the extent of how far we off the track in this country, read Judge Napolitano. She is a constitutional lawyer and educator. chrisannhall.com. Free podcasts, and search for her on YouTube. Learn the Constitution, learn how far we're off the track or where our founding fathers wanted us to be. So what would I rather be doing today? Yeah, I'd rather be at home composing and playing instrumental guitar music. That's really my thing. I only started writing these protest songs because nobody else was saying it. And I figured I should use my talents for that. So instead of writing and playing depressing protest songs exposing family court tyranny, I'd rather be composing instrumental music. I prefer spending my weekend traveling, camping, hiking, playing tennis, bicycling. Instead of following groups on Facebook about family law tyranny, I'd like to be studying science and subjects to further human progress, astronomy, space exploration, biology, chemistry, botany, computer science, and many other subjects. I love learning and studying history. For 28 years since my kids were stolen, I've struggled just to survive. I could have spent an inheritance from my father on a house of my own instead of equipment and travel expenses fighting for justice and reform of our court system. I have no retirement account. I spent that too. I need justice. I need money damages for the 12 years of legal battles in secret kangaroo courts, 9 months of unlawful incarceration, a train-wrecked career, being forced to live in bankruptcy and poverty, a suspended driver's license, and most of all, the mental anguish of being exiled from my children. But how do you get justice from our corrupt court system? Well, it takes either hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens or hundreds of thousands, or it takes knowing somebody in the court system, having connections. Those are the only people who get any kind of justice. You have to pay for justice. But my story is just one of millions. I speak for them also here today. Hundreds have called me to tell me their stories since I started my website about 11 or 12 years ago. exiledfathers.org, which is now exiledparents.org. Either URL will get you there. But all the stories basically are the same. It's like hearing my own case history every time somebody calls me up and I have to stop them. It does no good to tell me. You have to put your story on camera. People should be here today who live in the DC area. Come here and bitch to Congress. That's what the First Amendment is for. Where the hell are they? I email hundreds of people all over the country, but also people just from Virginia and Maryland. Where are you, people? It's sad, man. Somebody has to do this, and I happen to live near our rogue Congress that passes legislation in areas for which it has no delegated authority to act. It rewards states for violating parents' rights and perpetuates parasitic family law industries, judges, attorneys, psychologists, social workers, and child protection agencies, etc., who thrive and make their living on unconstitutional federal funding for stealing children from fit parents. With modern technology, the law should be easy to understand, to access, and to apply. We have computers now, you know? I mean, you can access any law you want online. When are the courts going to catch up? Christ, I mean, we should make lawyers obsolete. But first, we need to get millions of lawyers doing justice to all the guys who are sitting in jail now for not making their extortion payments after they had their kids stolen. I was one of them for 9 months. I'm speaking for them here today. How many hundreds of thousands of fathers, maybe some mothers, are sitting in jail right now because they can't make their so-called child support payment, the extortion? With modern technology, the law should be easy to understand, access, and apply, and for the public to monitor with live streaming technology. But judges and attorneys fear cameras in court like rats and roaches fear the light of day. Judges and attorneys acting as officers of the court intentionally block modernization of the courts by prohibiting recording devices in courtrooms. This is outrageously absurd in the 21st century. It is unconscionable and unacceptable for our supposed open society to have closed courtrooms. The Sixth Amendment of the Bill of Rights calls for public trials. If you're being tried, and if your fitness as a parent is called into question, that has to be for a criminal offense. Child neglect, child abuse, assault, some crime has to be involved. That means you belong in criminal court in a public hearing. But yet we have family courts, secret courts. In my courthouse in Arlington, and probably courthouses throughout this country, you can't even take your cell phone into the courthouse. They don't want you to record anything, man. You can record anywhere you go in this country, any public place. You can use your iPhone. Anybody can broadcast like I'm broadcasting now throughout the whole world. But you can't broadcast from a courthouse. No, sir. That's got to be private. Secret. where the rats do their dirty work. It is the job of the legal profession to keep law complicated and secret for their own job security. Attorneys become judges who continue to create and perpetuate more and more litigation by intentionally violating parents' rights. This causes parents in their temporary insanity, being desperate to get their kids back, to spend their fortunes on attempts to get them back. It is nothing less than kidnapping for ransom, extortion, and racketeering. Just like, would you take your car to a mechanic who you knew was part of a company or a gang that goes around vandalizing cars? That's what our courts are, folks. They're vandalizing families. And yet we go to the family courts and think we're going to get justice there? Forget it. You know, how long does it take people to learn that? A long time. And the lawyers know it takes people a long time to learn that. So they're just sitting around waiting, man. They're going to ride that gravy train until people wake up and until we get cameras in our courts. This is a transcript from my April 24th, 1989. This was an appeal from the family court in Newport News, Virginia, to the circuit court. It's what they call a trial de novo. This is the transcript. And it's about 80 pages of complete BS. But the bottom line is, and by the way, I've scanned and I've PDF'd my entire file of 2,776 pages digitized. 2,776 pages of 12 years of litigation in the corrupt kangaroo family courts. I'll find it in a minute here. You know, there was no reason for it, but on the judge says, as far as this court's concerned, I think that the custody of the children should be with the mother. There was no finding of unfitness. Now I'll just read it. You know, most of this, the 75 pages or so, was nothing but slander against me. There's nothing that I showed I was unfit, except that for this. he says, the judge says, I have seen nothing here about, there's some problems here. I think Mr. Young made the mistake about trying to badmouth the mother in front of the children. Okay, what that was my kids were like toddlers, and they asked me why they couldn't see me anymore. I said, well, I probably just said, probably foolishly, your mother lied about me, something like that. It was some thoughtless comment that I made. I had to tell them the truth, But anyway, that to me is not the type of thing that will deprive him of visitation. Visitation? I really think that the suggestions made by Mr. Ellenson, he was my attorney, I think that the custody should be with the mother, but with some reasonable rights of visitation with the father. And I do not see anything from his conduct that would be enough that would have to have supervision. That's generally desired for something else. I just don't think that his conduct is such that he should not be allowed to have some sort of visitation with the children. Isn't that kind of him? There's another part that says, let me find it here. Oh, hell, I know it's in here somewhere. Anyway, I'll get back to that. This is something written by Don Rufty. He's been a family rights advocate for probably 3 decades in Charlotte, North Carolina. He used to run a newspaper called the Carolina Nickel there. And he was apparently successful in getting the courts to open up a bit and treat parents a little better. And he wrote this. It's calling all moms, dads, and grandparents whose children and grandchildren have been stolen from them by illicit family courts. The American people are rising up. In recent decades, the so-called family courts have become an ever-growing menace to America. Acting against the American people in secret kangaroo court rooms, CPS, and DSS. Well, we're getting a few raindrops here. I'm going to have to prep for that in case it starts pouring. So Ted, if you want to go offline, whatever.
Oh, that's a bummer. What's your plan, Mark? Are you going to be able to continue to stream?
Yeah, we just
Or
had
are
a
you
few
shutting it
raindrops.
down
I
for
just
now?
want to get things ready in case I have to rush in a downpour or something.
All right. Well, I'll keep it going until you turn it off.
What? What? Okay. Yeah, just be a few minutes here. wonder where he is. McDermott, right? I presume she tried and couldn't get it. I couldn't find the page because I removed it to make copies of it, so never put it back. Anyway, what it said was that basically the judge said he didn't find that I was unfit, but he went ahead and gave custody to the mother. I mean, just blatantly, just screw you, father. Just you don't wear a dress, screw you.
Hey, Mark. There's somebody on hold. I think it's Kirk. Kirk Pendergrass. If you'd like to talk with him.
Sure.
Okay.
Hello.
1 minute. Hello, caller. You are on Parents' Day rally at the U.S. Capitol with Mark Young. Who are we speaking to, please, with?
Hi, Ted. This is Kirk Pendergrass.
I thought it was you, Kirk. All right. I'm going to turn my mic off, and you guys have at it. Thank you for calling.
All right. Thank you. You bet.
Hello, Kirk.
Hello. Is this Mark?
Yeah, you're live at the Capitol.
Well, I think we need to get the people educated on due process of law and what that fully entails, because that's a right. It's a God-given right. It's the law of the land.
Absolutely.
And we're going into these corrupt courts, right? We know that they're corrupt. But in the rules of procedure, there are certain parts of the rules that allow us to perform our administrative duties. And it's called special appearance. You will find it no matter what court you're in. And I'm not talking just family court. It doesn't matter what court you're in. We have to file our paperwork. We have to establish what our status is, what our standing is, and we argue the jurisdiction. They do not have the jurisdiction to do this. Okay? So you make this argument. You let the judge violate your rights. You may run into a judge that goes, wow, okay, yeah, this is a pretty strong argument, which it is, because it is the law of the land. And you let them violate your rights. Okay, due process of law does not stop there.
Hey, you don't have to let them do it. They're going to do it. You know. Go ahead.
Well, I like to say let them do it, because when somebody steps in a pile of shit and I bring them into court, they're the ones that's standing there with the shit smeared all over them. Not
Just
me.
to let you know, we got families here, so watch your language, please.
Okay, bovine feces.
Yeah.
When they wallow in the bovine feces, they're the ones that go to court with this feces all over them. They're the ones that are going to stink. They're the ones that are going to look bad. So you make your arguments. You get it in and on the record. In is the paper. On is the oral arguments. Okay? Now, when a judge dismisses anything of your motions or whatever, okay, there has to be a finding of facts. Okay, and those facts have to come from the law, and that has to give the reasons why the judge has dismissed your motion. Okay, so you demand the finding of facts.
Okay.
When the judge doesn't do that.
So, Kirk, I think what you're getting to is the appeal process, correct?
This is more than just the appeal process. Okay, due process of law does not stop at trial. It doesn't stop at appeal. It doesn't stop all the way at the Supreme Court. It's called a tort claim. Under Title 42, Section 1983, these are our tort claims, violations of the, law of the land. They're violating the law of the land. Okay, if everybody starts doing this, within 6 months, these courts are going to start falling on their face. Okay, it's $400 to file the tort claim. Get your $400.
How many of us have $400? I mean, or how many of us can afford to hire an attorney? And
No. Here's the thing. Do not hire an attorney. All an attorney does is goes in and admits the jurisdiction, the exact jurisdiction that you're trying to object to.
Yeah,
they admit the jurisdiction, take leave, and you're screwed.
Yeah, well, does
everybody understand that?
$400 to file. Are you talking about federal court or state court or what?
Federal. This is federal court. Okay,
right.
This is actually a suit at law. Okay, and you're seeking equitable relief, because that's the root part of justice is equity, equitable. It must be distributed equitable. So you can't take somebody's rights. So in this case, let's talk about family law. You cannot take a father's parental rights. Okay, that's a loss, right? That would be a loss. And you cannot take that loss and then apply a support, a monetary gain for the other party. That's a double loss. That's in violation of the law of justice.
Listen,
that's a maximum of law.
We got to pause for rain here, sorry. I'm going to cut the power to.
Am I still with you guys?
Yeah, Kirk, you're still with us. Just hang tight for a second.
Okay.
I'm listening to the delayed audio through
You're
Facebook.
still there. Okay.
Did they hear us?
Yeah, we can still hear you guys.
Yeah, there's always a delay on this stuff.
Yeah, I just tested it. There's like a full 10-second delay, which is pretty heavy.
Must be getting quite a few people on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Now, this is the information that I want to get out there to people, is this due process of law.
Right.
And if everybody follows this right, we can, in a way it jams up the courts, but like the Department of Justice has said, okay, we can't really act on some of these when one person complains about, a corrupt judge. Okay, they need multiple complaints from the same judge or from the same state for them to start their investigations.
I don't have anybody lined up for Wednesday, so why don't we, because of my trip and everything, so if you'd like, do you want to come on the show Wednesday, maybe talk more about this stuff?
Yeah, you bet. I'm eager to share this stuff because I've got it down. I know how it's supposed to work. I know what we're supposed to be doing and following due process of law.
Okay, we'll do that, and then maybe Mark can call in, and we'll get a twofer out of this.
Yeah, well, the point that I wanted to make with Kirk was, can you hear me, Ted?
Yes, I can. I'm going to turn my mic off so you guys can talk.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. There's you get screwed in one court, you go to another court, you go to this court, you go to that court. Well, I want to avoid that. Okay. I want to fix the system so that, if there's a camera in the first court you go in, they're not going to screw you. That's what I'm here for. Okay. We're in the 21st century.
Right.
And so, you got C-SPAN. You can watch what they're doing up there most of the time on C-SPAN. Why the hell can't you watch what the courts are doing? We should have a URL for every court in this country, and then the judges and the would behave. Am I right?
Right, but
it's not that.
You're.
Go ahead.
You're battling the corruption. They're not going to want to put their corruption out so everybody can see it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Right.
But the problem is people are not exercising their right to due process. They're not performing their administrative duties under the law. Okay? So I don't care if it's being recorded or not. If you're not filing the appropriate paperwork to establish who you are, and you bring the jurisdiction, okay? Informa pauper, or not informa paupers. That's the other thing you can file. Informa paupers, you don't have the money to pay the $400 filing fee. That's fine.
Right.
In propria persona and sui juris. Sui juris is, hey, I'm of the lawful age of 21. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of my administrative duties, and I am here to stand as a man, and I bring the common law jurisdiction. I invoke the common law jurisdiction. Now, once you claim the jurisdiction that you bring and you only consent to this jurisdiction, once jurisdiction has been challenged, jurisdiction must be proved. And they can't prove that jurisdiction because it violates the common law. Okay, so you're invoking the common law. And you force them to go, well, crap. We don't have jurisdiction and we can't prove the jurisdiction. This is when they start stepping outside of their ministerial duties as a judge.
At what point?
Okay, and that removes judicial immunity.
At what point in time do you
now you can
challenge jurisdiction?
Here we can see it.
At what point in time do you
from the very, very, very beginning of the case? It is the first thing that you file. You cannot file anything other than a motion to continue. If you file anything other than a motion to continue, you admit the jurisdiction, and what's a term that's called laches occurs.
Okay.
You no longer have the right to raise the claim that this jurisdiction is unlawful.
All right. I told my attorney to challenge jurisdiction for a number of reasons, and I told her those reasons. I did not have any contact information for her at the first hearing. I told her when I first met her, she's a public defender, and now she sent me a letter, which is weeks later, and then gave me her email. And my first email to her, I said, "What happened with the jurisdictional challenge?" She didn't answer. That was Friday.
Okay. Again, when you hire an attorney, okay, what you're doing when you hire an attorney is you're admitting to the court that you are completely incompetent. You're an imbecile. You're an idiot. You're a child. You do not have the capability to effectively defend your rights and perform your administrative duties under the law. You are so mentally deficient that you are not capable of handling your administrative duties. So when you hire an attorney, the attorney goes into court, does their notice of appearance, and says, "I am representing this imbecile, this idiot." These are legal terms. Look them up. Okay,
wait a minute.
You admit that you don't know what you're doing.
Kirk, what you're saying is that if I hire a lawyer, the Bill of Rights no longer applies to me. That's what
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Rights. If I hire a lawyer to represent me, my rights are gone. I have no rights once I walk in the courtroom. I'm an idiot.
Well, you do have rights, but you've already admitted the jurisdiction. By hiring an attorney, the attorney admits the jurisdiction for you and then takes leave. In other words, anything that happens in this case from here on out happens to this guy over here and not me, not the attorney.
Right. Well, I told her to challenge the jurisdiction. So is my right to jurisdictional challenge gone now because she didn't do what I asked her to do? And she's not my attorney. She was appointed to me. I had no choice in her. She was just there. I walked into court. She sat down next to me, and she starts talking. So the judge starts talking. So the case started, and I leaned over to my attorney, and I said, "I want to challenge jurisdiction." I don't know what she did or not because we had no contact for the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to fire her. Miss Williams, you're fired. I'll send her the email tonight telling her she's fired because I asked her if she did do the jurisdictional challenge and she wouldn't respond to that email. She says, "I want to see you in my office." So I obviously she's gonna tiptoe around it or tap dance around it. And I've already decided to fire her because she didn't respond to me in 24 hours to that question. I don't care about weekends. I work weekends. But now is my right to a jurisdictional challenge gone because I stupidly sat down in a shelter hearing next to a lady who was supposed to carry out my demands or my wishes or my interest. So is it gone?
Yep. Yeah.
What about the?
Like I said, as soon as you hire an attorney, and see, here's the thing: the Fifth Amendment says we have the right to counsel. We do not have the right to have an attorney represent us. That's the misconception that statutorily has been put out there. That the Fifth Amendment says you have the right to be represented by an attorney in criminal proceedings. No. We have the right to assistance of counsel. I can be your counsel. Because counsel is your choice.
You're going off on tangents here. What we're here for today is to expose the corruption in the courts. And what I'm hearing from you...
This is exactly what I'm trying to do.
No, but what you're saying, you're putting the onus on us. It's our fault that we didn't know the law, the right documents. By the way, I went through 3 attorneys, and then I started representing myself pro se. I went to paralegal school. Okay, I'm not an idiot. And now just because
I know you're not, Mark.
I represented myself in court and the same thing happened, it's still my fault. I mean, I appeal.
Okay, I got to hammer this home.
Pardon?
I have got to hammer this home, and people need to understand this. When you hire an attorney, they represent you. You no longer have a say in anything.
Listen,
they admit the jurisdiction.
I agree.
Your jurisdictional challenge goes out.
I would never hire an attorney again. I'm totally with you on that. That's That's obvious. I mean, we have been in this for, I've been in this for 3 decades now. I tell people, don't hire.
Yeah, I've been in it for over 20 years.
Learn to represent yourself. But, I want to focus on what we're here today. Kirk, tell us how we can fix the system. Are you saying there's no problem with the system? The problem is with individuals who don't know what they're doing in court. Let's get off of that, okay? Let's stick to the issue here today while we're here, please.
But that's the root cause. And if we don't address this issue right here, right now,
not that we don't
you
know.
will never succeed in anything.
It's not that we don't know, because after I got home from that shelter hearing, I wrote a letter to the chief judge, and that original judge, because the original judge started assaulting me in court, in open court, admonished me about ex parte communication that she had, which I was not privy to. I still don't know what she was talking about, but that judge now is gone, which is rare. To get rid of a judge is extremely rare in a case, but that's how corrupt the court that I'm facing today is. And they know that I got them because of what I do. So they removed that judge. I don't know if she fled, which I believe she fled because she knows what I do. And
well, the judge left the case because you had ex parte communication.
No, but
that was the grounds for removal.
Other judges have had done that also.
Look,
but
wait a minute. What we're here for today is not to talk about, individual cases, what I did wrong, what he did wrong. We're here to expose what's wrong with the system. Can you tell us anything?
I'm trying to tell you, and you don't want to listen.
No, well, you're telling me how to file to get relief in the other courts. I'm talking about the original courts we went to.
No. I'm trying to tell you how to exercise your right to due process and bypass the corruption. But nobody seems to want to listen to our responsibilities, our moral duties and ethical obligations under the law to defend our rights. That's what we're supposed to do. And we're lacking in our education on how to properly perform our administrative duties under the law.
So you still, okay, I'm with you there. Everybody needs more legal education. Fine. What is wrong with the family courts, Kirk? Is everything fine with the family courts?
Okay, see, you're trying to limit it to just family courts, and it's every single court in the land, not just family. This happens in every single court.
Okay, well, how do we fix the courts?
I'm trying to tell you, don't hire an attorney. File your affidavit of truth, your status, who you are. You are sui juris. You're perfectly capable. You must be over 21, and you are capable of handling your administrative duties. Okay? Then you file your notice of appearance, and it is by special appearance. You bring the jurisdiction. You do not admit their jurisdiction. This is key in the very beginning of the case. This is where everybody skips that step, and that legal term literally latches onto you, and you're screwed.
Wow.
That's the corruption.
You're right.
That's the reason why the bar attorney is there.
Right.
To admit the jurisdiction.
Yep. You're right about that.
So that is the key part of every single case in the very beginning of the case.
But the problem is...
So if we can address that, the rest of the corruption is going to fall. It's going to fall on its face.
Yeah, but what happens is you get rushed into court so fast, and most people don't have the experience or the education. I went to paralegal school also. I did it before any charges because I saw how much corruption I was facing with the civil servants that were approaching me. So I went ahead of time and went to paralegal school, so I know a little bit more. I'm not like some people. Like Mark is way more adept at what's going on than I am. But I understand the basics, which is jurisdiction. They have to have jurisdiction. I understand a number of things. But a lawyer has a duty. Okay, he's just not talking for the idiot that's standing next to him. He has a duty to make sure that these things are being done. Right. Lawyers should be questioning jurisdiction. That's their duty. They should be doing what you would be doing if you knew, but they're not doing. I know it's funny, but I don't like to hire.
Okay.
I got pulled.
Answer this question.
Yeah.
Answer this question. what duty is this you speak of for the attorney, and who is the duty to?
To represent you and your rights. I know that they don't. They
No.
their own rights.
No, they are a state actor. They are a part of the court system.
I know what you're saying.
Their duty is to support the court, not you. That's their bar membership. The bar requires them to uphold the code, the statutes, the jurisdiction. And if they don't do that, they get disbarred.
Listen, you're talking to us. We are completed. We know this. We went through it. Okay. So,
newbies.
What about federal funding? Do you have a problem with that?
With what?
Federal funding to the states. Title IV.
Oh, you're talking Title IV of the Social Security Administration Act.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's taxpayers' dollars being funded for the corruption. Okay, but again, we're still talking. You're talking way down the line. We got to deal with the root problem here. The root of the problem is people are not performing their right to due process of law. They're not performing their administrative duties, and the legal term latches occurs, and you're screwed.
Yeah, but
this is what needs to be addressed.
You're right about that. The problem is people don't come to these shows until after they've already been subjected to jurisdictional issues and stuff like that. They're already in it. They're in it deep, and they're now trying to figure everything out. So it would be nice to tell everybody and have infomercials and stuff like that telling them to challenge jurisdiction anytime you go to court, but nobody's going to pay for that. So you have to wait for them to come to you. You can't go to them, and by the time they come to you, they're already entrenched in this I don't know what you would call it, but corruption. It's just so deep it buries you, suffocates you. You know, so
well,
how do you fire an attorney?
We need to educate the people before they go to court.
Right, exactly, but that's very difficult to do.
Kirk, can you make it to the Million Parent March rally? And maybe you can.
I highly doubt I can afford to make it.
Where do you live? Where do you live?
If I could find somebody from Idaho that's headed that way, we could carpool or something, but that would be about the only way I could make it there.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you've got the solutions, we'd love to have you here.
I definitely have the proper procedure for defending your rights, all the way up to filing the tort claim.
Are you on Facebook?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'll look you up. I don't know if we already are on the friends list or not, but I'll look you up.
Yeah, well, please post all this stuff inside this video or you can on my page, Mark Young. And everything you're talking about, that'd be great if you could post it somewhere, so we can get better educated.
I do have a private group called Kirk's Law Corner, and I share a lot of stuff in there. I have all sorts of files uploaded. The affidavit of status is uploaded. I mean, what we're talking about here are simple one-page documents.
Okay, great.
That's it. Your notice of appearance is a one-page document, with the second page showing that a certificate of service. Your affidavit of status is a one-page document.
Okay, yeah, this
is real simple stuff, guys.
We got a storm coming here, so we need to cut off for now.
Yeah, you might want to turn the phone just slightly so it doesn't get that wind noise. It's super loud.
And they're Washington, D.C. right now. It's alive.
Yeah, I think maybe Mark's video feed is frozen, so I think he turned off his camera. I'm not sure, but oh, here we go. He's back on.
System overload.
Well, we got to deal with the rain here.
Okay. Well, Kirk, after you get off the phone, send me some information for the show, and I'll get an ad together for Wednesday. Okay.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Are you available Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern?
I believe so. I have court on Tuesday to have the court hear my motion to vacate all orders for fraud. So I'm not sure what's going to happen Tuesday.
Okay. You're not looking at a contempt charge or
Which the
anything, are
judge
you?
wants to hear, by the way.
Which what now? What
What's
did you
that?
say? Yeah, it's a little bit hard to hear us with the wind, but I don't want to put Mark on mute.
Yeah, it's getting all garbled. I can't hardly hear.
Okay. I'll put him
I'll
on
get
mute.
with you after I hang up here. I'll go in and I'll post some stuff on this live video.
Okay. Oh boy, it's really getting windy there. Oh my goodness. There's a 10-second delay, but in just a second, their flyer is going to fall down from the wind. Oh boy, there it goes. Boom. I can see into the future.
All right, I'm going to get off of here and I'm going to go jump on.
All right,
Here.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet, brother. Keep up the good fight. Keep up the good work. Love you guys.
Love you too, bro. Alright, so as you all can see, it's really, really windy. Mark trying to put his banner back up and the wind blows it right over again. Yeah, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Kirk on, and hopefully Mark can call in. If you've watched Million Parent March Live, you know Mark calls in on a regular basis, and so does Kirk. They both call in quite a bit. Mark has played Wheel of Judiciary twice. Luckily, he was able to win a shirt, the USPF Not Your Right shirt. Wheel of Judiciary, which is on Wednesday or Fridays, has been sponsored by USPF and TFRM. So thank you very much, Shane Downs, Jeffrey Perry, and Josh Tuttle for all your help the last few months. And just so you all know, Million Parent March Live will be a daily show again. I'm thinking about something a little bit different on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursdays is Brian and Lee's radio show, Restoring Families. That's on Blog Talk Radio, and I'd like to broadcast his show on Thursdays. That's not going to happen this Thursday because he is basically MIA now. He's on vacation for the next 10 days or so. But I'm going to promote his show on Thursday so everybody goes to Blog Talk and listens to it. And Monday, I'll give you guys an update of what I want to do on Tuesdays. And I'm going to try and keep everything at 8 p.m. Eastern, except for Brian's show starts at 7. But if anybody would like to call in, and we can talk until Mark is ready to get going again. Hopefully this weather clears up. The phone number is right there. If you can't see it because of the live icon, just turn your device sideways and you will be able to see the phone number, or swipe the chats away and that'll get rid of the live icon and you can see the phone number that way. But please feel free to call in and we can chat while we're waiting on Mark. Looks like the wind is settling down. Yeah, hopefully he's okay out there. Yeah. It's good advice, Sarah. Breathe. Some of my worst panic attacks, if I just lay down, focus on my breathing, I can get them under control. That says a lot about stress levels. If you're feeling stressed out or anxious, just take a minute, focus on your breathing. Some of the best meditators, even some of the best debaters have learned to meditate while they're talking. It's a pretty amazing skill. So if you're just joining us, there's a bit of a rain break, or a storm break. Here comes the wind again. The wind is picking up. I think everything's going to blow over for the third time. I feel bad for you, Mark. I wish I was there to help. As you guys know, I was driving through DC last Friday to pick up permits for the Million Para March, which didn't go exactly the way I hoped, but things were working out, and I had, by the time I got home, I had $14 left and an eighth of a tank of gas, so there was no way I could have stayed. Plus, I wouldn't have been able to broadcast the event like this. But I certainly wish I was there to help him. Well, welcome back, Chris. Chris, if you want to call in and mention anything we talked about, I know some of it is still in the works. And obviously, you guys aren't going to hear me for 10 seconds. We have a 10-second delay. My CPU is maxed out again. It shouldn't be. I really, really, really could use an upgrade to bring you guys some better quality videos. Less of a delay, less, less problems.
Who are you talking to, Ted?
I'm just talking to myself, Mark. How you doing?
Oh. All right, it's blowing up a little bit here, so,
Yeah.
looks like it might rain some more. Is the picture still okay? Is it still good?
Yeah, the picture, it's a little bit, there's a little bit of latency, a little bit of lag, but it's fine. I can, since there's a 10-second delay, I can see what's going on, and then I tell everybody what's about to happen, like I'm telling the future. It's been pretty fun. Like, watch out, the banner's gonna fall down.
But is the frame okay? I don't know if we moved the camera.
Oh no,
Okay?
everything looks good. Actually, the camera has hardly moved. I could adjust it slightly, but it looks good still.
Okay.
Everything's still in the frame.
All right. Well, might be kind of boring for you here, but.
Well, that's all right. Well, what did you? I know. Kirk's called into the show a few times, and you've called into the show, and I know the way Kirk describes his message can be a little bit can go against the grain a little bit. The way he words it, he could slightly alter the way he words it so it doesn't sound as aggressive. But it's interesting. And he's been trying to get his message out to me, and we hadn't planned on having him on the show yet, even though I've been wanting to have him on. And since I don't have a guest yet for this Wednesday, I guess he'll come on, and it'd be great if you could come on too, and we could continue the discussion and make sure everybody's on the same page. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I guess so. No, I mean, he seems like a knowledgeable guy. Just that, you know, people. The problem is people do not have the knowledge when they get dragged into family court. I mean, you go in, you get subpoenaed into family court. You've never been there before,
Exactly.
and what I hear from him is that it's your fault because you didn't know what the hell you were supposed to do in the first instance.
Right, and so
I mean, come on, man. You know, just because you're ignorant of the law doesn't mean you're not entitled to its protections.
that is exactly right.
Am I right?
And while you were taking care of the win, Kirk said that he has court on Tuesday, and he's using exactly what he just described in that case. So Wednesday is going to be perfect to hear what actually happened in his case and see if it worked.
Okay.
And that's the biggest problem is, you know, I was a contractor. I had a company called Carpenter's Kitchens in Florida. I got through the recession. You know, I took a huge hit in the recession, and you know, I even showed the court my 1099s and my income and everything from the business. But they didn't care. They way overcharged.
By the way, we have to get right on top of the phone here to hear what you're saying. So I'm sorry if I'm too close to the phone or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you fine. Everything on my end is good. So no worries. But yeah, I know it's really windy there. I bet it's hard to hear.
Yeah, I still got the power off, so I'm just hearing you through the phone now.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I've never had any legal education. Not, you know, relatively nothing. It might as well have been nothing. I did have seventh or eighth grade teacher take me to a local trial, and that was very interesting. But I didn't learn really how to handle it. I just saw that, you know, this guy was very sly, whoever was in court that day, and he managed to get justice for himself and was found not guilty. I remember that. That was nice. But yeah, there needs to be education.
Yeah, I grew up watching Perry Mason, so that was my image of what was supposed to happen in a courtroom, right?
Right.
So I mean, that was 1989, and I was my late 20s, I guess. I was born in '54.
Right. Yeah, I didn't catch a lot of that.
Shortly after I went through 3 attorneys, and then that's when I realized, hey, I got to get some education here. So I mean, he's right. You got to get educated, but you shouldn't have to. That's the point. You know, that's why we're here.
Right.
And to me, the only way we're ever going to get treated fair in the family courts is with cameras in every courtroom.
Yep.
I mean,
and
why don't they do that?
Right.
If you're talking about your fitness as a parent, that's a criminal matter.
Right.
You have to be accused of some crime before they can question your fitness as a parent. You know, unfitness. I mean, violence, some kind of violence, assault, neglect.
Right, and that comes right down to the fact that we're in front of a judge in the first place for doing absolutely nothing is the opposite of what our legal system was based on. They just switched from from action for divorce to no fault, but still had the exact same process as if somebody assaulted another person. And initially, in the legal eye, or in the eyes of the law and the eyes of the public perception, which is also the perception of the people in court because they are the public still, is that if you are in court, you did something bad. And for a very long time, and most likely still, it was generally the man who was guilty until proven innocent for doing absolutely nothing. As we've seen the reward system get better and better and better at extorting us, the judges really don't care whether or not you're male or female. We're seeing more and more women being turned into non-custodial parents in the last decade than we ever have before. And I find a lot of the active members within the Facebook community, within the active family law reform movement, there seems to be more active women than active men. But anyways, we have a caller joining us. Let me see who this is. Hello, caller. You are on with Mark Young at the Capitol. Who are we speaking with, please? Hello, caller. Are you still with us? I'm sorry to keep you in the waiting room so long. I guess they, well, if they might have their phone off, and if they're listening to the Facebook stream, there's about a 10-second delay, so they'll hear us in a second. But the mediation in court could completely change around to helping the court system extort us. It could be changed to helping the people going through this, because, like I said, we don't have any legal education. You go into this knowing nothing, and if those mediators told you and helped you, explained to you and said, this is what is expected to you now that you are divorced and you are a single parent. These are some of the things that you will need to do. Also, these are your rights. This is what you can do to make sure that your 50-50 fundamental rights to your child are held intact.
Yeah. You reminded me of that verse in the Bible when they were trying Jesus, and it says, well, if he did nothing wrong, he wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Something to that effect. And that's the whole thing that you go through when they drag you into court and then you lose your rights.
Right.
That you're stigmatized, that you've done something wrong. People used to say to me all the time, what did you do to her?
Exactly. That's exactly what Benjamin Franklin didn't want to happen. That's why he took Voltaire's his writings from France in 1745. He wrote, "It is better to see two guilty persons set free than to see one innocent man incarcerated." Benjamin Franklin in America, about 75 years later, changed that to, "It is better to see 100 guilty set free than to see one innocent incarcerated." And with the family law system, the family fraud and abuse system, simply being in front of a judge, being accused of anything, going through any kind of legal system for doing nothing, is the complete opposite of what Benjamin Franklin wanted. What he said put in place due process, which our legal system is built on. And there is zero due process in the family court. Therefore, it is a completely illegal system. It should not exist the way it does.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. It should not exist. And, I'm totally with Kirk, what he was saying about jurisdiction. I well understand that. The jurisdiction is the most important thing. Do you belong in this court? And the answer is nobody belongs in family court because it shouldn't exist.
Right. And that's what, since we're not educated, so, now that I'm learning these things, I'm learning more and more, obviously, but it's been 5 years now. I certainly didn't know now what I know then. My life was destroyed before I could do anything about it. And, if you were being...
My case is history. It's, water under the bridge. My kids are in their 30s now.
Right.
But I have no relationship with them. But, I'd love for Kirk to tell me how I could somehow get justice in the court at this date. I heard one time that there's no statute of limitation on fraud in the court or something to that effect.
Right.
I've heard that from different people.
And there's the last sentence in our First Amendment says that we can seek redress from our government if they've done us wrong, if they've, committed.
Yeah, you can seek it. That's why we're here today.
Right, exactly. And since 1970, when Reagan first put into law no-fault divorce, they are culpable for the destruction they have caused. And what I would like to see happen is the billions of dollars a year that is stolen from American Citizens Social Security Fund to be used for a couple of years to settle that redress, to settle that compensation with the lives that the family court system destroyed. And the people, whether they intentionally or through neglect helped destroy these lives, are responsible as well. They either need to be fined or jailed. They need to be held accountable. That goes for every judge, lawyer, all the way down to the girl sitting behind the desk handing you papers. They are all involved. They all are accountable for their actions, whether intentional or not. Period. That's the law. So if you work for the family court system or CPS, I suggest that you quit your job and find other employment, because you will be held accountable for your actions as well.
Well, I don't know where the money should come from, whether it should come from the Social Security Fund. That would be like two wrongs making a right. I mean, if we've got $6 billion to go killing people in the Middle East, we ought to be able to come up with the money or the debt,
right,
to do justice to the parents who've been screwed.
Absolutely. Somehow that's the easiest way I see. And any time the court system says they don't have enough money to do something, like they don't have enough money to record a hearing or record a trial, that's absolute fucking bullshit. Sorry. We're talking about billions a year, and then if you add in attorney's fees and everything, the United States, with Social Security money and private money, we're spending a trillion dollars a year or more.
Yeah.
It's insanity, and it shouldn't even exist. Shouldn't even exist. If in 1970, if a mandatory prenup was instituted along with no-fault divorce, we would not be living in this current reality. We'd be in a completely different society right now. And that's really the as simple as it gets. And a lot of the people who work for the court system could be turned into, like I said, mediators to help parents through the divorce and make them understand this is what you need to do to be a single parent. These are the steps you have to take professionally and personally to make sure your children are best taken care of. And in some instances, there still will be child support where there was abuse or neglect, or instances where one of the parent has to travel. Obviously, there will be child support in those instances, but it needs to be a set amount, how much it actually costs to raise a child, not on a sliding scale. So like me, they could put such a burden on me financially that it put me out of business. So how's the weather looking now, Mark?
I'm trying to figure it out. It's like the clouds are just hanging above us.
Right.
And I think it might be passing. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot the sound.
Okay.
See what happens.
Great.
We've got a lot of tourists, look like Chinese tourists here.
Sweet.
Which is happens every day pretty much.
Nobody knows China as well as Trump. Or nobody loves China as much as Trump. I can't remember what he said now. I can't really see them. Maybe they're Korean. All right, I'm gonna turn my mic off as soon as Mark gets going again. If you'd like to call in, the number is there. Just turn your device if you can't see the phone number because of the live icon. Yeah, Kirk, I see what you're saying, and Mark has said the same thing in comments I made when I was first learning about this, months ago. Mark's point was the government should have no interest in marriages at all. But we'll discuss that more Wednesday, because you could go all the way back to the separation of church and state, and the fact that the state has no jurisdiction over marriages whatsoever. There shouldn't be a tax break. Oh, phone rings busy? Chris? I'm just seeing that now, I'm sorry. Try it again. It is weird. I've done, a bunch of test calls, and every once in a while, I get, something weird happens. So if you're still with us, Chris, please try it again. I could play some music, but I'm at 98% CPU. If I open another program, the music is going to be all skippy. So I don't want to open anything else. If anybody has an extra desktop with a ton of CPU, what do I have? I have two 64 cards, which the laptop I'm using is pretty souped up, but man, there's a lot better systems out there to be doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
All right. I can hear you, Mark.
All right. Got any more callers?
I'm waiting on Chris. Chris tried to call and said it was busy, so I just asked him to call back in. I won't be able to call you, Chris. You'll have to call the show. I could call you, but you wouldn't be on the show.
A little music.
Yeah, there you go. We'll play a little music. We'll take a little bit of a break until Chris calls. I could sing. You guys want me to read some Winnie the Pooh to you? No. I believe Mark is playing his original works.
Makes your life a mess. You think that you got freedom to petition.
I don't think we have to worry about any copyright laws. I'm going to turn my mic off. Everybody enjoy.
See it your way. Welcome to Family Court of Justice. Your friends come along to lend a helping hand. The judge closes the hearing. Your friends are banned. You need to have a record, show your motion to record. The judge that finds your motion says, what you need that for? Welcome to Family Court. by silent face. Feels like it's just a fixed rate. Just a fixed rate. Recording justice. Hanging through hope for some reason and peace. Then they order psychics from secular priests. You expect the court to follow rules of fairness. The church is sidetracked into a cycle of goodness. Trial and jail, some judges. Your privacy is now just a joke. Your private life is put under a microscope. You got no freedom of religion and speech. You can't train your child about your beliefs. It's time to jail us judges. You provide for your child, but now they pretend you're deadbeat parents, so they hit you again. Child needs support, so now you're forced to pay. If you don't pay extortion, the jail's where you'll stay. Out of jail, judges. But now it should be clear, though it's hard to believe. Judge and imposters hold our courts under siege. They reject the Constitution on which the courts are based. We're going to be enslaved until we jail those beasts. Trying to jail some judges. Black robe child abusers. Jail for judges. Black robed child abusers. Yeah. Absolutely. Ted? Got any caller, Ted? Hello, Ted.
All right, the music is off. Mark is walking over.
I just want to make sure you're there.
Yeah, we're still here. Jody Mueller is on her way over. She's in D.C. She's Bruce Novitsky. Bruce Novitsky is picking her up, and they're going to come over to your event.
Okay, great.
You've met Jody in the past, right? Jody Mueller?
I think maybe. Yeah, I know Bruce.
Yeah. I like Jody a lot, especially in person. Like everybody, you know, it's Facebook isn't a good representation of a person's character. Usually, people do things that they'd never do in person on Facebook, you know. And Jody's one of those people who might sound a little a little hard to get along with online, but in person she's absolutely wonderful. So I can't wait to see her get over there. And
Yeah, it seems a lot of people are that way, that they'll say things online they wouldn't when to your face.
yeah, and
That's the problem.
it's just the way some people type. You know, you type something out, you don't hear a tone of voice or see a facial expression, so it's very easy to take things the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, I have to catch myself sometimes too, realize I'm being too harsh.
Yeah, it's really easy to do when you're just typing. It,
That's right.
and in a lot of things that seem to go wrong in the movement go wrong for that reason. People just, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yep,
People take a chill pill before they go on Facebook.
yeah, really,
Well, you just get into conversations sometimes, and people are on different sides of that conversation. They take it the wrong way, but
yeah. I've noticed, you know, I saw you one conversation with you and somebody else I know, Paul, and it definitely seemed like that person was bullying you, and it was for absolutely no reason. It didn't make any sense, and that's why you should never drink in Facebook.
you should never what?
People shouldn't drink in Facebook because sometimes
Oh,
you get
Oh,
you get people on late at night who just want to go at you, and they're just not in their right mind.
yeah, you can tell that.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I don't put much value in the conversations on Facebook. I mean, I understand where people are coming from
right.
way out there, but you know,
It-
I've been blocked before, so I lost some friends too. So
I know it. I have as well, and a lot of it, a lot of what you read or hear through Facebook needs to be taken with a grain of salt.
exactly.
Until you meet people in person, you don't really know them, and that's why I've tried in the last year to go to as many events as I possibly could, to meet everybody I could, and I've met you and Mark. I've met Mark a couple of times now, and I met you at the Nancy Schaefer rally, Paul, and in front of the FBI building.
Yeah. That's the
And-
best thing to
Yeah,
get together as much as possible, but that gets past all that stuff that happens on Facebook.
right. When
It's just
when you shake somebody's hand and you hear them in person, you see them. From then on, when you interact with them on Facebook, you have that memory of them. You have an understanding of who they are and where they're coming from, and it's easier to communicate and work with that person. For a long time, I wouldn't even communicate with anybody on Facebook unless I had talked with them in person. And it seems like the more times I work with somebody who I haven't met, things tend to go more negatively than positively. Not that it always goes smoothly anyways, but through Facebook. But that seems to help when I meet people in person.
Hey, on another note, have you heard anything about Mike Gill?
Um,
I heard he got blocked or something like that.
yeah, that's really interesting because he was in DC. I was going to meet up with him, and I don't want to. He's been through a lot. He does a lot of work in New Hampshire with New Hampshire State of Corruption, and I was really looking forward to meeting up with him. And his Facebook was just like, it wasn't deleted, but it was shut down. So I couldn't get back in touch with him. From what I understand, he has to use burner phones because he has had attempts on his life.
Right. I'm kind of in the boat as him, but I don't use burner phones, and I don't hide anywhere. I'm kind of out in the open, but
Yeah.
I have the same thing in Miami, the same type of deal that he started. That started him on his path. It started me on my path. That was 15 years ago for me.
Right.
They just now started targeting children. So,
Oof.
but But I tried to meet up with him too. I thought I'd meet up with him when he came because I saw that he was coming.
Right.
But I don't think he likes to meet people too much. I think he's a little too scared, or not scared, but a little leery. Trying to be safe, like Schaefer was doing.
Yeah, he is, and New Hampshire is my home state. I live in Vermont now, so I've met Mr. Dill, and he's a great guy, and I've worked a long time on building a relationship with him because of that. He is careful, and rightfully so. But he like Cash Jackson and Marissa Hamilton, he ran for governor a few years ago. He was not successful, unfortunately. But he's very well known in the New England area, and if you look at the stuff he shares through New Hampshire State of Corruption, they get thousands of views, thousands of likes throughout the country. He told me one time that outside of New England, Texas had very high viewers, which was interesting to me. So he gets interactions from people from all over the world through State of Corruption, New Hampshire, and he's a very valuable ally in this movement. I wish, and I'm worried about the guy. I think he's okay. I think something must have happened, and he just shut everything down. Maybe he had to leave D.C. I know originally he was going to leave Thursday evening, but he had decided to stay through Monday, the last I talked to him, and then his Facebook was I don't know what you say that when it's not deleted but it's frozen. What is the term for that? But there was no way to contact him. I couldn't text him, call him.
Did he do that, or did Facebook do that?
That's the thing. Nobody I know. I've called everybody I know who knows him that might have his phone number, and nobody has the answer.
I thought I saw a conversation saying that Facebook had blocked him, had froze his account. But I don't know. I was just following somebody's conversation.
Yeah, since I was traveling, I hadn't been keeping up too much. I just called the people I knew, or I had phone numbers to, who I knew have his phone number. And I found nothing. I found no answers.
Oh, all right.
Let's see. I'll look back on the comments here. Oh, the Holmes. Is that a baby Stefan, Susan? Susan Cobb just commented, I met the Holmes, and they are the real deal. They had their newborn baby taken for no reason except they had religious beliefs different than where they had their baby at the hospital. 9 months later, they see more. They are in D.C.
They're still in D.C. right now?
They are. The Holmes, no, that's not the baby Stefan case. The Holmes are going to go with Schwab's to D.C. for the hunger strike. I have not met the Holmes, I don't believe. I certainly would like to.
I tried to meet him one day here, but it didn't work out. We met at the back of the White House. There's 10,000 people there. We were going to meet there, but we had never met. That just wasn't a good place to meet.
Right.
So we didn't make the connection. But
well,
I'm pretty sure they're right in this area somewhere right now.
Okay. Well, Susan, if you can get in touch with the Holmes and send them over to the Parents' Day rally right there in front of the Capitol, that would be fantastic.
What time are you going to stay till?
7.
We're going to be here till 7, so.
Okay. Well, we can keep this broadcast going for everybody to check out throughout the day. That's fine with me. What time is it now? It is 3 o'clock almost. 2:45. Tell him I am from Iowa Blunt. I'm not sure what that means. I think I've driven through Iowa once, but I haven't spent much time there, Jody. Yeah, I'm just looking back through the comments. Yeah, unfortunately, since the timing of this event was such that I didn't have any shows last week, so I didn't promote Mark's event. I had no way to. I had to go to Florida last Sunday. We left for my son's test that week, and we find out Tuesday whether or not he passed. Oh, Iowans are blunt, Jody says. Are you on your way, Jody? Are you already picked up? Do you want to stop by and pick up the homes too? I think they're behind the White House. Maybe not still. Maybe that was another day. It's the only way to be blunt. Sometimes it's Facebook is weird though. You can sometimes it's better to be a little bit more light and breezy when you're typing, so people don't take it the wrong way. But there's plenty of people who, I may not get along with on Facebook, who I get along beautifully with in person. And I try and keep that in mind and not allow too much to bother me when I'm reading it through the Facebooks.
I gotta reset my camera thing because it's going vertically for some reason. I don't know why.
Everything looks good on the broadcast.
No, I'm talking about my Sony camera.
Oh, all right.
I gotta reboot it, see if it fixes it. I'm using their software to remote control.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know that, Jody. I know what you're saying. We've had some pretty deep discussions at the symposium in Dallas, Wendy Perry's Parental Alienation Symposium. We got to talk quite a bit, and I have some theories, and I asked you some questions, and it's very obvious that you're not a man hater. I'm not a woman hater. But there are a lot of people who are, because, like we were talking about earlier, we're not educated in this as we go into it. And so if you're a woman and you're taken advantage of by the courts, you think it's because of patriarchy or whatever the hell it is, or maybe it's the opposite of the patriarchy. Misogyny. One or the other. I tried not to pay attention to that stuff. And it was the exact same thing for me. I got out of there and and you can certainly find pockets of people, hate groups that, bash women, hate groups that bash men. And that's the first thing I found was tons of anti-feminists. And, initially before I started meeting people, that was the road I was going down because that was the easiest route to go if you don't know what's going on. And so part of our task as active members in this movement is to educate people to the fact that both men and women are being taken advantage of and having their lives destroyed. It has nothing to do with the opposite sex. Feminism certainly didn't help anybody's situation, and really neither does Maninism. It's the opposite coin to a similar problem. I really try to look at myself as an egalitarianist that is equal, men and women being treated equally. Obviously, there are certain strengths that men have that women don't, certain strengths that women have that men don't, certain things we each do that the other can't physically do. And so balancing those things out is kind of hard, but a lot of that is our own gender role perceptions. Those perceptions spill over into court all the time. But there's no reason why legally we shouldn't be treated equally. And and the family court system is just an example of how biased and corrupt the courts are. It's like a sick science experiment. It has nothing to do with men or women, but individual prejudices and bias certainly play a role in judgments. It depends on the judge you get. I mean, just in Vermont here, my case isn't in Vermont, but there's one guy, Scott, who's paying $200 a month in child support for one child, and there's a guy named Chris, a few counties away, who's paying $700 a month for one child, and they both make about the same amount of money. Doesn't make any sense. Susan Cobb says they are in seclusion, but I will attempt. Right now they are attempting to accomplish things to secure their baby, but are making themselves difficult to find. They are being chased and hounded by hounded by pros. Sorry, I had to press C more. Yeah, and that's, I guess, maybe what happened to Mr. Gill.
Ted,
Yeah.
wants to know who's getting chased and hounded.
The Holmes were going to go with the Schwabs, with Raymond and Amelia Schwab, when Raymond was making plans for his hunger strike at the White House. So things in the Schwab's case changed a little bit to the point where Raymond didn't have to go through with the hunger strike, but the Holmes are still in D.C., but they're secluding themselves a little bit for safety reasons.
Oh, okay.
So they're around D.C. somewhere. It'd be great if we could get in touch with them and get them over there too before the day is over.
Yeah, if you can talk to them, that'd be great. I tried to meet up with them at the White House, but there was too many people there. I guess we just missed our connection.
Yeah, Susan says that she's going to attempt to get in touch with them. So thank you, Susan, very much.
Yeah.
Mark, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the music that you were playing. So I didn't know you played guitar until you sent me a YouTube video, and I listened, and I thought it was great. I certainly know where your inspiration comes from.
Yeah, well, it's I've written about half a dozen songs now about the family court.
Wow.
The one I just recorded again was the first song that I actually wrote when I was deep in the hole. You know, when my case was fresh.
Okay.
And it's really probably the most heartfelt song I've done. I changed the lyrics on it. The original was really basically in first person. It was all about my case.
Sure, I understand that.
I just broadened it and made it apply to everybody. So
yeah,
that's the one called Twisted Fates.
Twisted Fates.
Twisted Fates. Twisted Fates.
Twisted Fate.
Yeah. That's what happens to all of us. They twist our fate.
Very true. Yeah, and it's interesting that you changed the lyrics around because when you're going through this, you're trying to figure it out. Your perception, you can't even say that you have a perception because you have no education about what you're going through, and so
yeah, you're too emotionally caught up to be objective.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And as you learn more and more and create more understanding about what is actually behind the system, you realize that some of the things you may have thought about initially while you were going through it don't really apply as much as you did at that point. Would you mind playing that song for us? Do you have it available?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just list the songs that Big Black Robe. I think that's the one I did before this one, the last one a couple years ago.
Okay.
And then there's Divorce Industry Blues.
Nice.
That's several years old. This damn phone is acting up again. Jesus. I think I'm being sabotaged. Somebody's remotely controlling my phone.
Yeah, it's weird.
This has never happened before with my iPhone, where I couldn't access my playlists.
That's strange.
Why is that happening here? I'm going to turn off see if the the Sony software controlling my camera has something to do with it. I don't think it. No, I don't think it.
So Mark is having some phone issues. He had these same issues for the first time just earlier today around noon. He's not able to access his playlists. So we're trying to, he's trying to pull up one of the first song he wrote about the family court system called Twisted Fate. Once he gets that up and running, we'll listen to that.
He's actually Twisted Fate / Back to Our Destiny.
Back to
Our Destiny. It was kind of being optimistic, and still is.
Oh, that's good.
Because I think we can, if we ever get our butts off the couch and come out and go up.
All right. One of my sayings in the construction business was, "There are no problems, only solutions." And when you go to family court, you don't really understand the problem, let alone the solution. You just, a lot of the times you think, like we said earlier, that you did something wrong when you didn't. I mean, you must have done something wrong if you're in front of a judge. And that's the bottom line, why the system shouldn't exist in the first place, is you shouldn't be in front of a judge for doing nothing.
If he were not a malefactor, we would not have brought him before you, Herod, or whoever it was, Pilate.
Right, Pontius Pilate.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the same thing. I mean, that's the whole scenario you go through when you get dragged into family court.
Right, and it's the absolute opposite of what the legal system in this country was built on, which is due process. And you are not supposed to be in front of a judge for doing nothing. And so, since we are guilty until proven innocent. It is actually a completely illegal system.
So, okay, I got Big Black Robe, Divorce Industry Blues, Do What You Gotta Do. That's kind of about the ex. So,
yeah.
But it's also about the court system. But then the Jail for Judges, last one I played. Now, Live Stream It, that's about cameras in the courtroom.
Sure.
And yeah, that's basically it. So here's here's Twisted Fate.
Great, thank you, Mark.
Oh crap! It might help if I plug it in.
held up our end of the deal. Their parents made, we did not know the government could steal away. And I swear I will fight until we right this wrong. One must struggle for freedom, even up against the wrong of our worthy goal. I will not lose sight. Blame the lawyers for this song. Only justice will set us free. Free to raise our families. Free from judicial tyranny. Free to choose our destiny. But now our little ones must wait while parents mend their twisted fate, caused by courts that thrive on hate and delaying resolutions. They do everything to avoid peaceful solutions. You're not an unfit parent, but regardless, I now find the best interest of this child to leave one hurt behind. But Judge, that makes no sense. You can't do that to me. Well, if I treated you fairly, there'd be no reward for me. We'll get back to our destiny, where we're free to raise our families. We'll get back to our destiny, back to fundamental liberties. So many children suffering, so much torture and mental cruelty, so much ruthless inhumanity, so much costless insanity. Where goes our right to our children? Where goes our right to our children? We'll get back to our destiny.
Awesome. Going through the stream like that, it's a little it's not as good quality as if you were there in person, because it's streaming from you to my computer and then back through to everybody through the broadcaster. But that's a really good song. I really like that, Mark.
Is it distorted at all, or just a low level, or what?
It's just through the broad. Since I'm picking up your stream.
It's going through my. It can't be great, yeah.
Yeah, so by the time it gets to Facebook and I hear it through Facebook, it gets a little bit laggy in certain parts, so you don't get the real feeling of it, but you can hear everything clearly, or hear the words clearly. It's a really great song, and you have these on YouTube as well, right? Somewhere?
I have several. I don't have this one on YouTube yet, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I made some. I have Big Black Robe and Divorce Industry Blues.
Because if I had a little bit better computer, I could go to YouTube myself right now, find the songs, and play it through my end, and it would be just slightly clearer, because it'd just be going through one stream instead of two. Because right now it's going from DC all the way to Wilder, Vermont, and then back to DC, because that's where the that's where the feed goes and then gets dispersed out. There's DC, San Jose, Dallas, and one other one, I think Seattle. Those are the.
By the way, you can download these songs for free and do what I'm doing here. Take it with a small portable amplifier, battery-powered amp, blast it at your courthouse. You can either go to markyoungguitar.com or nimbit.com, nimbit.com/markyoungguitar.
Okay.
And click on the store. You can download the MP3s for free.
Awesome. I'll have to go listen to those again. Make sure I have them available, so when I do get a computer upgrade one of these days, I'll be able to go in and play those for everybody.
Yeah, I've been looking for musicians for several years now. I've had ads on Craigslist. A lot of people like my music, but when they start to read the lyrics and see how depressing they are,
yeah, I understand that.
Away. I can't blame them,
You know what's interesting? I just heard on the news that guitar sales have plummeted by the millions because of the fact that there's no new, quote, guitar hero out there. People like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, when they were on the scene and making music, the sale of guitars skyrocketed. And since we have nobody currently like that, the music industry is hurting because of it. So right now, if you play guitar and you're practicing, now's the time to be the new guitar hero. Just so everybody knows.
Well, it's because they haven't heard me yet, man.
There you go. That's exactly right.
I'd rather be playing, 60s and 70s oldies and or just instrumental guitar. That's my thing, really. Instrumental.
Yeah, that's fun.
I just wanted to use the talent I have to try to help expose what happens in family courts.
Sure. No, it's great. I say I used to play the guitar now because I never practiced. I was in a band when I was younger. Played a lot of punk rock and ska music back in the 90s.
Oh, you play?
I used to play. I don't really say I play anymore. I like what I play on my own is a lot of rockabilly. If bands. I guess really the only mainstream bands that people might know of are like the Stray Cats, but play like the Royal Crown stuff, and psychobilly, which is like a mix between punk rock and rockabilly. Like if you know, what's his name, Psycho Willie out of Denver. If you're Facebook friends with him, he's a bass player in a band out there, and they play psychobilly music, rockabilly, and really what rockabilly is really old rock and roll, like Elvis Presley, people like that.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash, obviously.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's look at Go ahead.
The band I was in back in my 20s, I played bass, and we played some of that stuff. We played some sort of swing stuff, some jazz, and some country. I guess some of you could call rockabilly, like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a lot of people will call old rock and roll rockabilly these days. Then you go into Nashville and everything changes. You know, you hear some really cool music, and you're like,
right,
that's some cool rockabilly, and they get offended and say, no, that's bluegrass. You know, there's all kinds of different variations.
Yeah, rock has intertwined with many forms of music.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great that you're doing that. I had no idea that, you know, that would be something that, you know, maybe you could perform at the Million Parrot March. We have 4 days. I believe Sunday might.
I can do that. I mean, I've got actually tracks on my iPhone that I just eliminate the voice and the guitar. I think I did that on Mother's Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got a couple. I played a couple songs like that, but it's really not that fun if you're not playing with other musicians. So it's probably best just to let the song play.
Sure, then you can interact with people. But yeah, we've got to make sure we get all that kind of stuff situated and wrapped up and planned out.
Yeah. Well, I could read a Phyllis Schlafly article about it's called "Federal Incentives Make Children Fatherless."
Sounds great. Let's hear it. I'll turn off my mic and listen.
Why has Congress appropriated taxpayers' money to give perverse incentives that break up families and deprive children of their fathers? The built-in financial incentives in the current child support system have expanded the tragedy of fatherless children from the welfare class to millions of non-welfare divorced couples. Americans have finally realized that providing generous welfare through aid to families with dependent children, AFDC, was counterproductive because the father had to disappear in order for the mother to receive taxpayer-paid benefits. Fathers left the home. Illegitimacy rose in alarming numbers, and children were worse off. AFDC provided a taxpayer-paid financial incentive to reward girls with their own monthly check, food stamps, health care, and housing if they have an illegitimate baby. She doesn't need me, she's got welfare, became the mantra. I keep forgetting to turn on my phone. Turn on my camera, hang on. I'm going to start over. Why has Congress appropriated taxpayers' money to give perverse incentives that break up families and deprive children of their fathers? The built-in financial incentives in the current child support system have expanded the tragedy of fatherless children from the welfare class to millions of non-welfare divorced couples. Americans have finally realized that providing generous welfare through aid to families with dependent children, AFDC, was counterproductive because the father had to disappear in order for the mother to receive taxpayer-paid benefits. Fathers left the home. Illegitimacy rose in alarming numbers, and children were worse off. AFDC provided a taxpayer-paid financial incentive to reward girls with their own monthly check, food stamps, health care, and housing if they have an illegitimate baby. She doesn't need me, she's got welfare, became the mantra. Congress tried to reform the out-of-control welfare system by a series of child support laws passed in 75, 84, 88, and 1996. The famous Republican welfare reform, and 1999. Unfortunately, these laws morphed the welfare system into a massive middle-class child support system that deprives millions of children of fathers who never abandoned them. As Ronald Reagan often said, the most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you." People think that child support enforcement benefits children. It doesn't. When welfare agencies collect child support, the money actually goes to the government to reimburse for welfare payments already given to mothers, supposedly to reduce the federal budget, which of course is never reduced. In 1984, Congress passed the Child Support Enforcement Amendment, which required the states to adopt voluntary guidelines for child support payments. In 1988, Congress passed the Family Support Act, which made the guidelines mandatory, along with criminal enforcement, which gave the states less than a year to comply. The majority of states quickly adopted the model guidelines, conveniently already written by an HHS consultant who was president of what was shortly to become one of the nation's largest private collection companies, making its profits on the onerous guidelines that create arrearages. The 1988 law extended the guidelines to all child support orders, even though the big majority of those families never had to interact with government in order to pay or receive child support. This massive expansion of federal control over private lives uses a federal case registry to exercise surveillance over 19 million citizens, whether or not government officials should massive expansion of federal control over private lives uses a federal case registry to exercise surveillance over 19 million citizens. Hang on, I'm missing some pages here. I gotta find this. Okay. I'll just repeat that. This massive expansion of federal control over private lives uses a federal case registry to exercise surveillance over 19 million citizens, whether or not they are behind in child support payments. And this was written 12 years ago, so numbers probably increased. The states collect the child support money and deposit it in a state fund, but the federal government pays most of the administrative costs and therefore dictates the way the system operates through mandates and financial incentives. The federal government pays 66% of the state's administrative overhead costs, 80% of computer and technology enhancement costs, and 90% of DNA testing for paternity. In addition, the states share in a nearly $500 million incentive reward pool based on whatever the states collect. The states can get a waiver to spend this bonus money any way they choose. However, most of the child support owed by welfare class fathers is uncollectible. Most are either unemployed or earn less than $10,000 per year. So, in order to cash in on federal bonus money, build their bureaucracies, and brag about successful child support enforcement, the states began bringing into the government system middle-class fathers with jobs who were never and probably would never be on welfare. These non-welfare families have grown to 83% of child support cases and 92% of the money collected, creating a windfall of federal money flowing to the states. Welfare morphed into family law tyranny. The federal incentives drive the system. The more divorces and the higher the child support guidelines are set and enforced, no matter how unreasonable, the more money the state bureaucracy collects from the feds. Follow the money. The less time the non-custodial parents, usually fathers, even though we grant it's happening to more mothers these days, I think it's still about 85% fathers are the non-custodials, last I heard. The less time that non-custodial parents are permitted to be with their children, the more child support they must pay into the state fund, and the higher the federal bonus to the states for collecting the money. The states have powerful incentives to separate fathers and mothers from their children, to give near total custody to mothers, to maintain the father's high-level support obligations, even if their income is drastically reduced, and to hang on to the father's payments as long as possible before paying them out to the mothers. The General Accounting Office reported that in 2002, states were holding $657 million in UDC, undistributed child support. Fatherless boys are 63% more likely to run away, and 33% more likely to abuse drugs. And fatherless girls are twice as likely to get pregnant and 53% more likely to commit suicide. Fatherless boys and girls are twice as likely to drop out of high school, twice as likely to end up in jail. We can no longer ignore how taxpayers' money is incentivizing divorce and creating fatherless children. Nor can we ignore the government's complicity in the predictable social costs that result from the more than 17 million children growing up without their fathers. That was 12 years ago, so now I think last I heard it was 23 million. Thanks, Congress. Thanks for stealing our kids. Stop rewarding the states for stealing our kids. Title 4D, Title 4E of the Social Security Act, ASFA, what does ASFA stand for? Adoption and Safe. Yeah, ASFA, the Adoption and Safe Families Act, passed by the Clintons. Signed by Bill, passed by them. Thanks, Congress, for ASFA. Thanks a lot for stealing our kids. And then the Violence Against Women Act. Thanks for that, too. Totally unconstitutional, Violence Against Women Act. A moron can understand that. It's a law passed just to apply to women. Whereas violence between men and women is about 50-50. Women assault men about the same amount as men assault women. Yet they passed a Violence Against Women Act. Huh? How does that happen? I mean, you talk about morons. I mean, how many lawyers we have in Congress? Have you ever heard of Equal Protection Clause, maybe? I should have printed out the whole history. This is a writing by Don Rufty. It's a call to action. In the latter half of the 20th century, a great social tragedy began to unfold. Keep forgetting. Travesty and Abomination, a call to action by Don Rufty. In the latter half of the 20th century, a great social tragedy began to unfold in the United States of America. Under the guidance of Bill Clinton, an insidious plan was crafted to fleece the American public of hundreds of billions of dollars by violating the rights of American citizens. Twin rackets emerged from the so-called family courts. The key participants in those rackets were the judges who presided over those courts. There was no check and balance over the criminality of the crooked judges. In the rackets, judges took upon themselves the roles of judge, jury, and executioner. Citizens were maliciously, illegally, unconstitutionally denied jury trials in those kangaroo courtrooms, family courts. Absent the protection of a jury of their peers, the crooked judges did whatever they wanted to the citizens over whom they ruled. The judges violated their rights in order to receive large amounts of financial incentives from the federal government. The payoffs to the crooked judges were awarded through the Clinton Title IV funding child trafficking racket. It was arranged for the money to be taken from the Social Security Trust Fund. The Social Security Trust Fund began to be depleted of funds. The crooked judges operated the rackets under the pretense of absolute judicial immunity. Under U.S. law, judges do not have absolute judicial immunity. They have limited judicial immunity. Judges who violate the rights of American citizens do so under color of law, and in the process commit felonies against American citizens. See U.S. Title Code 18, Section 242. See also Rule 3 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure. The crooked judges are habitual criminals engaged in a continuous crime. That criminal enterprise is a RICO conspiracy against the American people. The reason the crooked judges have been able to remain unindicted and unprosecuted for their numerous crimes is that the appellate judges over them allow their criminality against the American people to continue unabated. The appellate judges, in their complicity, have become accessories after the fact. They have engaged in obstruction of justice, dereliction of duty, malfeasance, and misfeasance. It is estimated that over 60% of American citizens have been adversely affected by judicial corruption in the so-called family courts. That includes fathers, mothers, children, grandparents primarily, and children, of course. The ruination of the lives of these people has been cited as the reason hundreds of thousands of U.S. citizens have committed suicide. The social carnage inflicted upon America by the crooked judges is enormous. Inasmuch as the judicial system is rotten to the core, the only salvation from the widespread judicial corruption is the executive branch of government. That means the president. That means Donald Trump. For the judicial corruption to be overcome, Donald Trump needs to emerge as a champion of the American people. In his inaugural address, President Trump promised to do exactly that. While the Clintonites lambasted his speech, it brought tears to my eyes. Apparently, the reason for the difference in our reactions to his message is because I am a lover of freedom, liberty, and justice, and they are not. In his speech, there was contained the promise of redemption for millions of suffering Americans, the possibility that President Trump may keep his vow to the American people is what was so moving to me. He uttered those immortal words, "Never again will the American people be ignored." President Trump says that he keeps his promises. I am in touch daily with people all over this formerly great nation who are praying that Donald Trump will keep this promise. He has kept many promises so far. We'll grant him that. If he does, he will emerge as one of the greatest of American presidents. His legacy as such will be ensured. It will be easy for President Trump to rescue America from the crooked judges. In a 20-minute meeting with his attorney general and the director of the FBI, he can instruct them to investigate, indict, and vigorously prosecute the crooked judges. The cases against the crooked judges will be easy to prosecute, as the evidence against them is all in black and white in the cold record in courthouse files throughout the country. A rookie prosecutor could get them sent to prison. The cases are slam dunks. This United States needs Nuremberg-type trials for the crooked judges. Inasmuch as the crooked judges are so numerous, the trials cannot be held in only one city like Nuremberg. They will need to be held in federal courthouses throughout America. Let the trials begin. President Trump, arise to destiny. The American people are praying that you will. We are too. To paraphrase President Reagan, Mr. Trump, tear down this American Holocaust. Bring this dark chapter in American history to an end. End the nightmare of family court tyranny. Again, that's by Don Rufty of North Carolina, a family rights activist in Charlotte. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank Don Rufty of North Carolina.
Thank you, Don Rufty. He sends me a lot of links, Don does. He's actually wrote some songs that he needs a musician to help him with. Or, because he's not a musician, he needs somebody to perform them. I'm surprised he hasn't asked you to do that. Although I think he wanted to be able to use his voice. Maybe that might have been a problem. I don't know. That's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, he's never asked me.
Yes, Neely. That's where they work, right there. Most of the time, the Capitol building. And we'll be walking right past there Monday. Yeah, that's when the Million Parrot March is, Neely. Exactly. The 17th through the 20th. If you go to Million Parrot March, if you type in Million Parrot March, there's a group. It's a group in name only. That's where you can get information about the event if you don't want a ton of notifications. The event itself is posted there. It's a 4-day event starting Sunday the 17th and going through Wednesday the 20th. And most of us are going to be there Saturday as well, the 16th, for the Mother of All Rallies. I or somebody else will be speaking at that event to promote the Million Parrot March event. Oh good, we'll have to meet up. I can't wait to meet you, Neely. So I know Jody Mueller is just around the corner. She's going to speak in a few minutes. Looks like the weather is holding. Mark, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You're live on the West Lawn, brother.
Fantastic. And just so you all know, if you're joining now, the Million Parrot March Live will have a show every weekday again, starting tomorrow. They're going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern, except for Thursdays, it will be at 7 p.m. And that will be basically Brian Lee's show that happens every Thursday. Hopefully I'll be able to broadcast that. Tuesdays may be slightly different as well, but I'll give you guys all an update tomorrow. Yeah, we could pretty much say Million Parrot March, September 16th through 20th. I mean, most people might as well, or most people will be traveling, you know, Friday night through Saturday, and probably through, you know, into Sunday as well. Because if people are staying through Wednesday the following week, that entire week is a wash for them as far as work goes. So that's why we kind of stuck to, you know, the 17th through 20th. But if you're able to, by all means, meet us there Saturday, the 16th. Well, that's good, Kara. Yeah, I know we've been working on that, or you have, for quite some time. I haven't been a huge help because my son was with me, as you guys might know. He had a second chance test to pass third grade. His teacher this year had a baby, so he had a few different teachers, and he, you know, I think he maybe took advantage of that a little bit, but he did not pass. So instead of summer school and missing my entire summer with him, he came here and we spent most of our time studying. He took the test, and now I'm able to focus and bring you guys the show every day again.
Where'd you get to?
I'm just I know Jody is right around the corner from you, so she should be there any second. But whatever you want to do, Mark, if you want to play some music until then, I'm just filling up time.
All right, I'll just I've got a printout of some case law on the constitutional right to be a parent.
Fantastic.
Some people, you know, a lot of people keep wanting to pass these laws in the states for equal shared parenting, 50-50, whatever. And yeah, I guess that's fine, but I don't see why it's necessary. I think the law is already there. The judges are just ignoring it. But,
right, and that's one thing about, you know, we're all trying to pass bills, and I would like to see a constitutional amendment. I'd like to see something added to no-fault divorce that should have been added when it was first enacted in 1970.
But the Constitution doesn't deal with family matters. So, I mean, this like the what is it? The what's that law they passed? The Defense of Marriage Act or something like that. All these laws they try to pass about marriage in the Congress.
Right. It seems a little redundant.
It's not redundant. It's unconstitutional. There's nothing in the Constitution about families. I mean, that's a state issue. The 9th and 10th Amendments.
Right.
The power is not granted to the Congress or reserved to the states. So, I mean, these guys up here think that if they can get a majority to vote for, you know, that the moon is blue, they'll pass it.
Right. Yeah, the bottom line is being a parent is a fundamental right. just like you have a fundamental right to get a tattoo if you want, or not even that, but as your hair grows, it's something that happens. Having children is something that happens because we are human beings, and you have a fundamental right to your child that you create, and especially in today's age where the mother and father's roles are, changing a bit. Fathers want to have just as much time with their son and daughters as mothers, and vice versa. Judges have zero jurisdiction in telling you that you cannot see them or that you can see them. They have no constitutional right to make that decision.
Well, no, there's a standard. It's the compelling state interest, which deals with harm to the child.
Right.
And if a parent can't be found to be a harm to the child,
right, that's the only
case.
That's
That's the only case they can do that.
Correct. We have a caller on the line. Is this Jody?
No, this is Susie.
Oh, hey,
Susan
Susie.
Cobb.
How are you, Susie? So, were you able to get in touch with the Holmes?
They have not answered, so I'm assuming they've disconnected so many things. I don't know if we've been disconnected. There's no problem with the relationship. They understand the whole thing about how things, our phones and everything are connected with people who keep track of us and watch out for us. They have our best interests at heart, correct? And so I'm thinking that they're really trying their best to hang in there.
Yeah.
And we hope we get to see them while we're still in D.C. But they're brilliant. Christian was raised in Charles Ram Hallam Jr.'s house, and that was his grandpa who raised him. And he worked he had an illustrious career with the federal government. And I won't go into all aspects of his career, but he worked for 2 presidents along with the other stuff he did. And so Christian was raised in a home that learned many things about government and what's done in government and what's done, in CIA and all that. And so he's a very wise young man. And this young couple, they literally have an understanding of, they perceive themselves as, they don't want to, but having to be crucified on the cross, so to speak, in like an analogy. And they would like it to last as long as they can, and that they can try to advocate for their baby and everybody else's child. And so they're a beautiful, beautiful couple. They remain stable in spite of everything that is happening to them. And that is the whole thing that the state of Alabama's case hinges upon, that they must be, the only thing they have left, since they don't have any real reason to have their child, is that they have schizophrenia because of their religious beliefs. And they don't. They just have religious beliefs. They're trying to follow God according to the Bible and Yeshua, Jesus. And they're doing a really good job of reading it and following it. They don't belong to any church, any organization. And so what's happening is the state of Alabama is using this against them, that there's a category under the DSM-4 and the DSM-5. You may or may not be aware of it, but it's called schizophrenia under the category of delusions and religiosity.
Interesting.
And so, are you aware of that?
I'm becoming more aware of this. There's a few situations, one in Connecticut recently, that because of a perception of these parents, their kids were taken away. Just somebody's perception, not a law, nothing. Just the way.
Well, I actually have. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I actually have access to court transcripts that I typed. I have both the audio and the typing that I did of them. And it goes into great detail how, in their case, and in all these cases, because they're not the first this has happened to, but that they are using religious faith. If you say that you hear from God, and that doesn't mean audio, that means, you know how a lot of Christians, they feel like God is speaking to their heart. You hear that kind of term. I've been in church for 60 some years. And so it's like, there's different terms. It all means the same thing. You think God told you something, but I guess there's a few that have actually heard it, but almost nobody says they hear anything audibly. And so if you make that statement to a mental health professional or a child support worker or somebody that's official that has the ability to affect your life,
who has the ability
then this is ground.
Who has the ability to be rewarded from stealing children.
Correct. Lots of money.
Right.
Title 40. But if you say that, then that is grounds for removing children. And then what they're doing, what I listen to, and it will shock you beyond belief. As these professionals came in and testified in court that you needed to be force medicated, and then you needed to have lifetime re-education. They didn't call it re-education. They call it something about have your thinking retrained or something. And then you would not be able to have children. And so the way they're getting Danielle, because this girl has several degrees, including psychology, and she was an honors student all her life, but throughout college, she's an honors person. She's an amazing young lady. And so she really understands all the devices they're using against them. Well, because she's so stable, they are saying that she has a condition, and I don't have it in front of me right now, that means that her husband influences her, and so therefore she's not mentally stable to have a child and take care of it because he will influence her. She submits to him. Well, the truth is they're a back and forth couple. We spent weeks with them. They're very balanced, they're partners. They tune into each other. They don't fight. They love each other. And the truth is, I couldn't really tell which one was in charge. But, the court never bothered to, they lie. They make up stuff.
Fighting was normal. I thought fighting in marriage was normal. I thought fighting in marriage was normal.
I'm not, I got such a cheap phone. I can't understand the words. I'm so sorry. I'm not able to understand. And since I have you online, but if I turn it on, there's a so many second delay, it won't work.
Just making a joke.
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah, Mark was saying, they think the courts think it's abnormal if the parents are not fighting, basically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now they'd have a hard time with my husband and I because we've been married 15 years, and we had one fight, I think. It wasn't very big. And we just, we don't go there. We're partners. So when we all got together, Christian and Danielle, and we hit it off fine, you can imagine why. We're like the same. And so there's a lot of things that they're doing evil to Christian and Danielle, lying, and it's beyond belief. So one of the things that I'll post on your live feed is, in fact, I was just in the middle of looking for it when you answered my call. But one of the things that I have posted is the judge taking them and giving them an inquisition. Like, if you ever talk about Miranda, it's unreal. It's vicious. And they think they're going there for him to release the child to them. They finally got a judge after weeks and weeks. 4 judges recused themselves. And finally, they think this judge is going to give them their baby back. He's going to everything's going to be fine. And the minute they get in front of him, he starts ripping and tearing them up to shreds. Secret courts, Nobody allowed in there. Gag orders. They bring a team of professionals in there to castigate you and chew you up, spit you out in tiny pieces. And so they kind of went into shock because this is not what they were like lifetime law-abiding citizens. They did not think this could happen, and it was happening to them. And after that, they realized that they were up against real bad actors, and they dug in and they fought, and it's been just a month and a half ago. I remember exactly when they had to stand before this judge again, and it was even worse. It was supposed to be their first adjudication in 8 or 9 months, and I haven't counted the months, but it turned out even worse. He came up to them. He had guards brought to them. They're pro se. They do pro se after having to fire 4 attorneys who represented the state instead of them. I think Danielle's, they're both so bright. They absorbed the whole law library. It could be lawyers now. They filed motions. They just a tremendous amount of work. He took every motion they had ever filed, threw them out of court, and said they could no longer file any more motions. And then they're pro se, so they're really screwed. So they go to this court hearing. Then, so when they went to this hearing, he'd already said they couldn't file any more motions and everything had been thrown out. So they weren't going in strong, right? And so they get in there, and he assigned 2 guards to stand beside them. And he says if they say one sound, even to each other, arrest them. And so there was their case. And so then they had to sit and listen to an illegal proceeding as everyone blasted them, that they brought up all the witnesses. Their witnesses that they had subpoenaed weren't allowed to speak. It happened to be a judge and 2 cops, but they weren't allowed to speak. So it wasn't a good day in court. Let's just put it that way. So when they left that day, we left Alabama. We all 4 of us left Alabama that day. Oh yeah, they also took the baby's visitation from 12 hours a week down to, we thought 2. We learned later it was 2 twice a week. So that's how they do for fast track adoptions when they're going to TPR parents. And they knew that. We all knew that. So they made the decision to leave, go to D.C., and start looking for higher help. Now, I know that Christian and Danielle are seeking some of Charles Holland's, Chuck Holland's contacts all the years that he worked for the government. I know that they're trying to make appointments with individuals. Immediately they went to the FBI because it was kidnapping, and that was a joke. And they did everything. They filed complaints with all up the chain. They filed complaints with the grand jury. Everything was exhausted. And I know a lot of parents do this. So, they're not the first. They just came in. We all came into the game late. I learned about this whole situation in this December when I learned of their case. I knew nothing before that. And so the Hollands, they're in the process right now of still trying to represent well. And they've come to the point that you get pushed to, if you're really good, they've gotten pushed to the point where now they have to, they're not in hiding. That's not a correct term. They're in a position of trying to last longer, whatever you want to call that. But I have their court trial that the judge did, and I'm going to post that link. And my comments are filled throughout it. I hope that they're entertaining. They're not. I'm not educated, so you'll have to give me grace and forgive me for statements I make that are incorrect.
Oh no,
but they're my
not.
feelings.
You're fine. I listened to every word you said, and you said it very eloquently. Thank you very much.
Well, I know that I get very emotional. These are like my kids to me, the Hollands. They're just, it's so wrong what's happening. But I have noticed that amongst the mostly married couples, they have strong faith, and the leaders are merging, and the way that they're merging is they just won't be beaten down. And some single moms too, full of fire. Nothing will stop them. It just makes them more determined. Like it's making us, we haven't lost any kids, but we're more determined. The more I hear, the more determined I am to make a difference, doing anything and everything we can do. And I just started in December. So we've been literally working around the clock, catching up to what y'all had known about for a long time.
Yeah.
And I doesn't matter. It's like as soon as people hear all these on my sites, on my Facebook site, and I also have a .com site, but on all of that stuff, yeah, website. What I'm doing is I'm posting the best of the stories, and the best of the live feeds, those kind of things, and my stuff. I have a lot of stuff. I posted a free book on your live feed because the reason I posted that, it's for people who have lost all hope, and they just think that it's all lost. Everything they did with their child is lost.
Yeah,
and it's just absolutely not true.
The courts,
I was that kid.
Yeah, the courts alienate you. They don't want you to know that they're doing the same thing to somebody just down the street. You know, there's
correct
24 million children growing up without a biological parent right now. 1 in 100 of us are incarcerated. 1 in 100 United States citizens are incarcerated, and the family court system and CPS, the way they do this is they put you in the system having done nothing, and convince you that you have done something wrong, whether it's CPS or you're getting a divorce. It's the same process, because really, if you create one non-custodial parent, it's almost as easy to create two, and then you have pure profit off of a foster child. And they'll use any reason possible to get that reward that started in 1997 and then became even more profitable in 2002 when they continued the reward every month until the child turns 18. And a lot of us have followed the Schwab's case, and it sounds like the Holmes case is similar to theirs. They were going to go to D.C. together. It's really starting to rain there in D.C., I see. I hope Mark is okay. Or I hope his equipment
Well, we're
is okay.
just about 12 miles, or a few miles south, or wherever we are. I forget. And it's sunny, so we all got it a little earlier. Now you're getting it.
Yeah, I see. Well, if you have, are you going to be going to the Million Parrot March?
We are planning that. We are planning to do that. We had to gather some funds. That's all.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my heart's desire to be there.
Great. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you. Yeah, go ahead.
If you haven't noticed, it's raining here.
Yep.
So I cut the power for a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, you're still live. Jody said she was right around the corner. I'm not sure.
They're here.
Oh,
they're actually here. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They're off to the left. I gave them some cardboard to stand under. They didn't bring umbrellas.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, you need umbrellas.
This may just be a brief shower.
Yeah, Susan was just saying on the phone that she's a little bit south of you guys, and it just went through and ended on her end, and it just ended with her on her side of things, and it's just starting where you are. So it should be over, according to her, in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it was good for us.
That's good.
So who is this speaking again?
Susan Dunn Cobb.
Susan
and
Cobb.
Where does she live?
We're in D.C.
Oh.
We're on a boat. We're on a boat, and I would be there right now, but we're on a boat and we don't have transportation to where you are. Didn't realize you were doing this. And the other thing is we're in a type of a marina where we're kind of locked in by tides because we have a sailboat.
Right.
So we can't go until it's the right time to exit this location during the day is what I'm trying to say. So we could come to you in the boat, but that's not going to help either. We're kind of stuck.
Well, I appreciate you calling in. Now, it's one thing I like to do with the show is get people aware of events like this one, and for the past month, helping my son study for his test, I haven't been able to have a daily show, and last week I didn't have a show at all. So I feel slightly responsible in a way. But
is this a one-day event?
yes, this Mark's event, the Parents' Day rally is one event today on Parents' Day. He also had an event on Mother's Day and Father's Day.
I'm thinking about
million parents that was see there.
The Million Parent March is September 17th through 20th, and the reason why we say that is there's the mother of all rallies is the day before on the 16th, where one of us will be speaking to promote the Million Parent March. The march itself at this point is in fact on Monday. The original plan was to have it on Monday, and that is what's going to happen.
Good.
But Sunday is going to be an amazing day as well, with speakers, possibly a sit-in at the Supreme Court, and that some people last year even camped overnight on the Supreme Court steps, so that is an option as well. And then the march on Monday, and then we have rallies Tuesday and Wednesday, and different things happening both days. So it's good if you can be there for all 4 days or 5 days, including the mother of all rallies. That would be fantastic.
We would do that. I also have a huge banner that we would fly on our boat, and it can be held by a person, well, two people, and it's Trump, let our babies go.
Fantastic. Oh, Kara's.
So thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Susan. I appreciate it. All right, so as soon as the rain stops here, I think Mark is going to continue to speak, and Jody Mueller is going to speak. I can't wait to hear that. It looks like the rain is already settling down. I can see some blue sky. That must be Sarah there in the blue. Hi, Sarah. Oh, right, there's a 10-second delay. There she is. Now you guys can see her.
Test.
Can you hear you?
You there, Ted?
Yep. Power's back on. All right. As soon as you're ready, I'll turn my mic off, and it's all yours again. that's interesting. Susan Cobb was able to call in, and I know Chris was trying to call. Chris Hallett was trying to call in. He tried multiple times and got a busy signal the whole time. So I wonder why that is. I'm going to have to call them tomorrow. Shelley Davis says, one key point, Alabama was taking kids for having a religion. If they can find a loophole, anything, they will use that to make a profit. You guys know how politics works and how funding works. You're not successful unless you grow your revenue annually. If you see things going down, that's red. That means, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. No, they need to generate more and more revenue every year. So any loophole they can find to steal your children, they will do that to profit off of it so they can generate more revenue. So we have to end this reward system. Okay, that's going to mean losing jobs. That doesn't matter compared to people's lives. These jobs should not exist in the first place. Jobs that steal people's children and destroy lives should not exist in the United States of America. You know, we know that people are hurting, especially after the recession, the Great Recession, and the family court system and CPS took advantage of that. Not only to create more non-custodial parents, but create a system that will, to politicians, seem like, well, we can't just get rid of it. We'll be ending jobs and we'll be getting less revenue. Well, it's not just unconstitutional. It's not just illegal. It's inhuman what these people are doing. And some of the people who work for these entities, or for this, empire that Nancy Schaefer used the term, an empire. They have no other option. People need a job, and if you give them a job opening for stealing kids, there'll be people that'll fill those jobs.
Absolutely.
And you can justify it because you're taking care of your own family. I mean, anybody can justify being corrupt or biased because they have to put food on the table for their own family. Even criminal acts. I mean, we all know Sandman from the Marvel or DC comics, right? He was trying to provide and keep his daughter safe, and he justified being a supervillain because of that. And that, that's a comic book, but that's how corruption is justified. That's how criminal acts are justified usually, is they're taking care of their family, and that's why you have people who can work for CPS and work for the family court system.
It's the biggest problem we have in this country, that people will do anything to keep their job.
Yeah.
Any job.
I
got a mortgage payments to make, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. A renter. Okay, I wouldn't want to put myself in a situation where I had to, be slave to a bank, because I spent nearly 2 decades as a divorce industry slave, constantly in debt, in poverty. I'm trying to make, do I pay the federal tax or child support this month? You know what I mean? Like right. You're in between a rock and 3 hard places.
Exactly.
So
you have, and then if you have some health issues on top of that, the family court system, when you're going through it and you don't understand what's going on, they're just destroying everything right in front of your eyes. The stress is insurmountable, and that stress leads to negative health effects, which is what happened to me. Not having insurance and having to go to the hospital, these ER visits, trying to figure out if there was heart problems or if it was in fact just stress, cost me thousands. And that's because of what the family court system did, the stress that they caused, the legal abuse system that was created, now the ongoing traumatic stress disorder, that basically put me in the hospital and is ultimately what put me out of business.
Yeah, I hear you. My career got train wrecked also. It was in the legal profession. I couldn't do it anymore because I couldn't focus on the work. Luckily, I could fall back to doing electrical work.
Well, that's good. You were able to do that. That electricians obviously are needed. The trades are a good place to be.
Yeah.
If you were trained, that's what I did. I went to trade schools instead of college. I tried to get into the military, but they didn't like my tattoo on my wrist.
Oh my
And
God.
so instead of being in the Air Force, I went into trade school.
Yeah.
So how are you guys doing there? It looks like the sky's clearing up nicely.
Yeah, I'm trying to reconnect to my remote on the iPhone from my camera.
I see. So are we going to? Are you going to speak again, or is Jody going to speak next?
We'll figure that in a minute as soon as I get this thing connected.
Okay, great. Let's go through some of these comments. Yeah, they're mostly rain comments. Cover the speakers. And here's a point that Mark Stosky said, no family member will get money. It's set up, CPS is set up to where you only profit if the child who is stolen is in the care of CPS or in foster care. If the child goes with a family member, that's not technically foster care. Nobody can profit off of that. So that's why you do not see children going to family members or friends of the family. They need to find a complete stranger. And in these cases, these children are 80% more likely to be abused in a stranger's care, in foster care. And in most of these cases, no matter what happens, whether the children needed to be taken for their safety or if they were stolen simply for profit, in 99.9% of the cases, the family members want to take the child and care for the child, and are denied because there is no profit for the state. Kara says it's annually. I've heard that too, but then maybe it's different between states. But I cannot remember who told me that or where I read that. That it's every month. There's a check every month. Maybe that's a state determination. Let's see. Well, that's the thing, Shelley, is this is domestic terrorism at its finest. There's no better definition of it. You have 24 million children growing up with a biological parent. What are those 24 million children going to be like when they grow up? When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, you saw a lot more situations where there was equal custody, 50-50 custody. I had friends who were divorced who lived with both mom and dad, week on, week off. And of course, to me, that seems strange, but that's what I saw. So now, trying to convince people that it's not like that because of the reward system, they tend not to believe me because they remember how it was in the 80s. There were still horror stories all the way back to 1970, but it wasn't as many. You know, there was not in the 90s. There was not 24 million children growing up without a biological parent like there is right now. That's why I'm saying that, you know, another 20 years of this, when these children are grown up, this country is going to be very vulnerable to outside, quote, attacks. You know, you have 1 in 100 of us imprisoned. There's 3/4 of those people are in jails, not prisons. And 70%, almost 3/4 of those people are in those jails, and they have not been convicted of any crime. They have not even been convicted of anything, and they're incarcerated. By my estimates, 1 in 2,000 of those people incarcerated are there because of debt. They're in jail. It's debtors' jails, debtors' prisons that were abolished 200 years ago. And they're in there. A lot of them are there for child support. Those are the numbers that I got for child support. About 1 in 2,000 people incarcerated for child support arrears. But then you also have people in there for owing taxes and even private debt. So I know I've said this on the show. Maybe you haven't heard this before, but what's starting to happen in the last couple of years is, if you have a Sears card, for instance, and you default on that money, it's given to a creditor. We all know how creditors are or used to be. So now the creditors can sue you, right? They only have to prove due diligence that they notified you of this court case. In most cases, you do not get a notification. All they have to say is, yeah, we mailed a notification, and then you do not show up for court. You are in contempt. So technically, you are going to jail for contempt, but it is because you owe Sears money. So now you're in jail for owing Sears money. It's
Me too.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I do go off on my tangents. It looks like they are ready.
Yeah, we have Tanya Myers and Jody Mueller are here. Can I give the mic to them?
Fantastic. Hello, Tanya. Hi, Jody. I'm going to turn off my mic and let you guys have it.
Well, everybody seems to wonder where I come from in all of this. And as a lot of people know, that I plan on running for Senate in Iowa, but I don't come from this from very little experience at all. You know, from the age of 2, I was a first generation foster child, taking on false allegations from my parents. And it didn't stop until I was 15 years old. I was returned home. And then at the age of 15, you know, people want to know about the trafficking part of this. I wasn't trafficked while I was in the agencies, group homes, foster care, you name it. I was in it all. But I was after I went home. After I went home, I was kidnapped and basically sold into satanic child sex trafficking and held in a dungeon for 3 months. So I know this from all angles. Then when I was 16, I got pregnant, had my children, had 3 eventually. But my children were taken from me, my first 2, at the age of 18. And then I fought for 5 years. They gave me my first 2 back. And then after I had my 3rd one, then they took them all. Then they terminated my parental rights back in 2006. And since then, I'm a very rare case. Since then, my oldest, as of last year, has aged out. He is 18 now, and we are expecting the 3rd generation. He is home now. We are happy. He's going through a lot, as he is very upset with being taken from his family, you know, on false allegations, and he remembers it all. I had a very intelligent son, lucky. I was very lucky and blessed. He has an eidetic memory, so he remembers everything. Now, my children were taken from me from a deck that was stacked very methodically. This goes back from the age of 12 years old. I lived in Mesa, Arizona, and I witnessed a murder by 2 police officers. My family fled and we went back to Iowa. Well, it didn't take long before I knew what was going on when they took my kids. My brother had a child with a cop's daughter in the town that we moved to. My father witnessed the magistrate shooting up heroin along with the county attorney. So when I talk about collusion and racketeering, I'm not playing games. I've seen it, I've lived it, I've survived it. And so have my children. Now, my second oldest child is 17. I have spoken to all of my children. I am an alienation case because people think that alienation only exists within custodial division. No, it don't. My oldest is aged out, but I am still alienated from the other 2. However, my second oldest child is 17 now, soon to come home. He was born with bilateral club foot, which is when your feet are really curved when you're born. And my son didn't have a curved bone in his body from the time he was born until he was 5 years old. And now I have learned from talking to him that his bones in his feet are now curved. His hips are out of place and having serious issues. And now he has ruptured discs in his back. But they thought that they knew what was in the best interest of my children. But he didn't have a curved bone in his body or anything like that up until the age of 5. So the night that ended in my TPR, the termination of parental rights, and this is where my son is really enraged. I witnessed the murder. The officer that followed us back from Mesa ended up becoming a county sheriff deputy in the county that I lived in. The magistrate and the county attorney were on heroin. The local police department, it was a conflict of interest directly because of a custodial battle between my brother and the police department with a cop's daughter. Conflict of interest. So with the deck stacked, false allegations, immediate removal because I knew my rights. I said I have proper consultation with my attorney at least prior to walking into this courtroom, and they literally held me down and pried my children from my arms. No court hearing, no nothing. It was all continued. Then let's see. The night that ended in the TPR, there was a domestic situation between me and my youngest child's dad. And yeah, I defended myself at first, but then I did beat the holy hell out of him, and I'll take that charge. And I was willing to take that charge, but what I wasn't willing to take was what they added on it. The cops came to my door trying to bust down my door, and I said, you need a warrant to enter my premises. And I stood my ground. They didn't care. Anyway, my 2 oldest children, I was getting them ready because I was going to be leaving their father at that moment. The cops came through my door, tased me, handcuffed me, beat me, tossed me in the car. I did not know that I was being charged with child endangerment until the next day. The next day I was being arraigned by the judge, and he read me my charges, domestic assault and child endangerment. And I said, child endangerment for what? And he said, because the officers said that I held my 2 children behind my front door as a barricade to prevent the officers from entering my premise. Now, this was a whole entirely different county the night that ended, the events that led up to the TPR. This was a whole different county. Now, I can also prove through telephone conversations that this was a direct phone call that came from another county, the one that started with the witnessing of the murder from clear back at the age of 12, the county that had the magistrate on drugs, the county attorney on drugs, and, the police department conflict of interest. And then people talk about the guardian ad litems. The guardian ad litem that was my children's guardian ad litem was, lo and behold, my guardian ad litem when I was a child. And my juvenile court officer for running away from home was also a staff member from the shelters and group homes and things that I had grown up in my whole life. So it was just a a wealth of conflict of interest. I mean, just beyond belief. And I still have the recordings. I still have the audio cassettes. I still have all the court transcripts. I still have everything, and they know it. And I'm stacking my deck because I think that this is just wrong. And these families don't deserve this. My children didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this. But what do we do now? You know, everybody asks me, what do you do now? And I get a lot of families that say, who do we call? Some people don't believe this, but I still believe this. You need to call 911. Get rid of these hotlines. These hotlines are disgusting. The Des Moines Register just posted out today that somebody was arrested from the Iowa hotline for fraud. So, you know, it's disgusting. It's disgusting in all avenues and at all aspects of it. And it is fraud upon the courts and collusion, you know, all this terminology everybody wants to throw out there. And it falls on deaf ears. Crickets. We hear crickets. They tell us that we're just this small cult of parents that are pissed off. No, we're not. No one is discriminated against. As long as you've got kids, you're a target. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Family courts are out of control. The judiciary is out of control. The police departments are out of control. The Bar Association is out of control. You know, trying to pass legislation, the Bar Association keeps intervening, you know, and I'm glad that that's being challenged in federal courts too, and success is coming out of that for lawsuits against the Bar Association for lobbying against family law reform bills. So with all that said, I would like to go ahead and take any questions anybody might have right now, and then hand the torch on over to Jody. I think it's going to be Nate Bolton's. I think it's going to be Nate Bolton's. He's gubernatorial candidate in Iowa. And I think that's the seat that I've fully chosen on. That's a good question. What do I suggest parents do now? I'm going to be honest with you. The Facebook support groups, you know, and I like a lot of people for how they look at this as like a stair-step program with Facebook, because that I kind of look at it like that. As everybody started out, they started out in support group. Okay, get your support and your awareness. With that, you'll get your education. You're going to build. You're going to see that you're not alone. This does not discriminate. You're not a bad parent. You're a good parent usually, and that's most likely why you're targeted, because they know you'll fight. You know, a lot of people, you get in the support groups and you'll find a wealth of information. As everybody organizes across this country, state to state, there's go-to pages for resources, support groups, references, advocates within your community, ADA advocates, court watchers, etc. That can help assist you in your dealings with the family courts. So I suggest people to find people within their state, find your pages, find your supporters, but just know that it's a fight that you can only go forward with. And I also try to let people know that as they screw up the system, as they screw up, just in the back of your head, know that if the right filings are done at the lower court level, you're going to hit them hard at the higher court level when it's over with. Whether you succeed or not, as long as you are still seeing your children, hang on to that for everything you've got. I had nothing but a picture. I actually went into a restaurant one time after about 5 years after my TPR, and I saw this child that looked just like my son, and I couldn't eat. I was sick to my stomach. I was throwing up. I couldn't move. I was froze. And I knew, though, that if that was my son, he would have recognized me. So when I tell people that I understand in a kidnapping or anything like that, I think that the unknown and grieving the loss of a living being is worse than anything on this earth. I didn't know if my kids were dead or alive, same name, different name, tortured. Didn't know if I was looking at them in the grocery store. Didn't know if I was seeing them walking down the street. I couldn't be around other children. I feared being around other families because it just made me sick knowing that they could have something that I couldn't. And that was horrible of me, but that is the point at which my brain went. Within 1 year of my TPR, I developed a very rare disease called complex regional pain syndrome, which I still believe is a direct result of the trauma that I endured of the TPR. So it's just nothing but constant pain in my entire body, and I have full body CRPS, and it has reached my internal organs. So I have a lot of complications. I was bedridden and wheelchair bound for 8.5 years. I've only been walking for about 6 months now. I've gone through multiple surgeries, including 3 back surgeries, 2 foot surgeries, tumor surgeries, you name it. I've been through it all. So I went through quite a bit. So I've been out of the picture for a while, but I've always been here and trying to support families. But there's support out there. I say reach out, because you will find somebody that knows something, and you will find people that are familiar. You're not alone. You're not alone. And I also want to touch on the suicide part. You know, parents, they feel like I have nothing left to lose. I have no kids. I have no home. They've hit me hard with child support. They, you know, and I'm not exempt from that either. Foster care recovery unit is such a beautiful thing, thanks to Title IV funding. You're not alone in this. You may have nothing left. You may be homeless. There's groups out there. Parents Co-op is a good thing that's getting started. Thank you, Nathan Cruz, for that one. Then there's Parent to Parent with Tracy Moss, you know, as far as if you need something, clothes, games, you know, whatever, you may need something, you know, and it's just donations from families, support. You know, the Parents Co-op, what I like about that the most is if you're homeless, you know, somebody, an advocate somewhere can sit there and put you up within that community for at least 7 days and get you established with services within that community or something so that you're not completely out, you know. So I like things that are getting organized and coming together. You know, this is really good, and it's going to take all of us. Yeah, it may fall on deaf ears right now, but things are moving. As we strip away these so-called immunities, then they're vulnerable, okay? And that's when you punch. That's when you punch. And I use that very strongly. We're going to punch this system. It's coming one at a time. And it's going to fall, but when it falls, it's going to be very dramatic, and it's going to be very scary.
Thank you very much. There's no comments or no questions on my end. Just thank you for your courage. That's from Shelley Davis. Mark Stutsky says, thank you so much for your courage and your information. Sorry for all the pain that you and your family has had to endure. That's what we have through Facebook. And that was
and
very...
The one thing I left out, I forgot to tell you guys, is when I was 2 years old and they took my mom. See, that was back in the 80s, where they were experimenting on, what do you call that? Like where they fry your brain, man. It wasn't a phlebotomy because that's when they cut the hole out, but they zapped my mother's brain because she showed symptoms of anger and depression from having us taken on, electric shock therapy. So they fried my mom's noodle. I mean, literally. So I remember my mother before and I remember my mother after. So this is not something I take lightly. It changed my mother forever, and I'm a direct reminder to her when I see her as what happened. Yeah. And you as parents will experience that as well. As you will be triggered with society. You'll see another mother that's going through a case, or another father that's going through a case, or you'll see a kid wearing a t-shirt in a park that reminds you of a memory of your child, and then you just shut down. I just want you to remember that that's what you need to shout. People want to shut up. No, don't shut up, please. Please share your stories. I am not kidding. You are not alone, and these stories need to be up there. They need to be up there. A lot of these legislators don't understand what's going on out here. But yes, continue. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I was just going to say instead of electroshock, now they use prescription drugs to do the same thing. So
yes, and I would like to cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
No, it was it's a way that they continue the legal abuse, but it doesn't sound quite as bad. People, if you're on prescription drugs, even children, because that's what happens is the children's that they have separation anxiety, and they pump them full of drugs so they don't care about it anymore. In doing that, you also create a child who is then technically disabled, and they receive more money from the reward system. It's just a horrible situation, and your story is, and you said it very, very well and thoroughly, and you didn't go off track. I thought it was very well said, and a horrible, devastating story, and a perfect example of why this needs to change immediately. People, this is inhuman. This type of things you went through is just inhuman, and certainly not American.
No.
So, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And just remember, everybody, there's people out there, you're not alone. It's not worth taking your life over. I always tell everybody, don't let the government succeed. Don't let them win. Don't let them win. That is their ultimate goal. It is mass genocide. I don't care how you look at it. Don't let them win.
I agree with you. It's
not
only the greatest civil rights disaster right now that we're facing, it's the greatest health disaster we've seen in modern history. More lives are affected and destroyed than we've seen since that we've ever seen in recent history. It's absolutely a tragedy, and the court system is protecting this. CPS is an empire protected by the judiciary, is how Nancy Schaefer put it. It needs to end immediately.
And what I'm doing is I'm calling this Kids for Cash Iowa, just like Nancy Schaefer, because I will not look at it any other way. We all agree simultaneously the money is the problem. Hey, the money's not going where it's supposed to. It's paying off people.
Yep.
And earlier you was talking about the forced medication. A lot of what people aren't understanding also with this psychotropic drugs, ADHD medications type things. And I was forcefully medicated when I was fostered as well. Actually, I was forcefully medicated on birth control, even though I was in a girls group home with only girls staff. But I was forcefully medicated myself, and it caused health problems even at 13 years old or 14 years old. So caused excessive weight gain and migraines, and I was really tired, couldn't really function in school. So I'm gonna move a little forward onto the psychotropic drugs. What a lot of people don't understand is that these psychotropic drugs are just like the Happy Blue pill from Pfizer. It's a sexual stimulant, and it is exactly creating child sex predators. These children do not understand why they have the feelings at such an early age that they do. It increases puberty to be happening at such a younger age. And now we have child sex predators. Now, I also want to remind people that when these children are sexually molesting others, that in turn is a sexual injury within themselves for something they do not understand that is chemically driven and altered. And so when the medications are being forced on these children, it's higher in males than it is in females. But they end up start molesting others or being sexually curious, and I want to touch a little bit on the educational system. Something that just came out recently that just disgusted me was that they want to teach proper sodomy in our sex education in school now. how to have anal sexual intercourse as a child. I'm sickened by these things. What society is doing. It's demoralizing. It's disgusting on all levels. All levels. It's out of control. It's out of control.
So we have a few other comments. I can go through those. They made a killing on Stefan Rivenberg Jr. before they killed him. He was disabled. Yeah, that was from Lisa.
That
Yeah,
one breaks my heart.
yeah,
That breaks.
you can, yeah. Well, a baby who is responsive, yet they say is unresponsive, and refuse to put him on life support until they can find a new heart, that the doctors, whoops, we left him open too long, and now he has scar tissue on his heart. And so instead of taking the time to keep this baby alive, they simply euthanized him, saying he wasn't responsive, when there is video that I played on Million Parent March Live and other people have shared of him responding to touch, to light, to sound, and not just like eye movements, but moving his legs, moving his arms while he's got this big gaping chest wound. It is really, really hard to watch, knowing that he is gone now.
And knowing that a judge can sign that death warrant.
Yeah, what was his name? Judge Wayne Shelton, I believe was his name. He belongs in prison for the rest of his life, that judge.
I agree.
Mark Stusky says, I've lost 2 granddaughters to DCS. No allegations, no nothing. Shelley Davis says, I've lost 5 grandkids because of CPS forced adoptions. Sarah Kate Carley says, I've lost my whole family. Yeah, Shelley says, I had no idea about psychotropic drugs. Yeah, that's something I know Raymond Schwab talks a lot about, because they forced, or are trying to force, drugs on his 5 children. And that's the first thing they'll do, because obviously there's separation anxiety. So they pump them full of psychotropic drugs, and if they act out a little bit, they put them on other drugs that will impair them, that will make them disabled, and then they get a higher reward for taking care of a disabled child. So they're actually rewarded for taking a perfectly normal child and making a disabled child out of them. And it's happening repeatedly.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry to the one who said she lost her whole family. I feel you.
It's horrible.
I totally understand. But I just want her to know that she's not alone. She's not alone, because that is their direct purpose, is to isolate you first. You're guilty by association now. It doesn't matter if you live in an apartment complex and your neighbor down the hall is doing drugs. You're guilty for living there. And this guilty by association and these CPS psychics, now we've got psychics, everything's foreseeable and imminent danger now. So, it's far overreaching. And then, like in my case personally, I had all the evidence to back my stuff up. I had it. They refused to allow it in courts. I filed my appeals. I was denied my appeals. I was up against a wall, and once I realized that wall, all my money was gone, just gone. In 5 years, it left me homeless and basically brain dead, and a vegetable. It's just gone too far. And now, okay, when you're looking at like the CPS level of it, because a lot of custodial divisions, people don't realize, lead to CPS involvement. So people always say, I don't want to hear CPS stuff. Well, you're going to hear it soon enough. The false allegations and withholding of evidence is just at a disgusting level. We all have the evidence. That's why we fight. But they know you're going to fight. They know you're going to fight. If you are in the right, they know you're going to fight. Their whole mission is to isolate you from all your guilty associates. Say that this person's a bad influence for you or your children. If you do this, we'll give you your kids back. But the minute that you do this, they file a TPR. So when parents ask me, I'm scared to do this, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Their mission and mind is already made up. Live your life. Live your life, enjoy what you've got, and fight. Don't shut up. That's what they want you to do. Do not shut up. That is the best advice I can give you in the world. Scream it to the hills. Write the Des Moines Register. Write, whoever, your local newspaper. Write the New York Times. I don't care. Write whoever. Write it. Don't shut up. That's what they want you to do. Don't fear it. Re-engage back into society because it is okay. You are just human. You are just human. And that is the God's honest truth. You are human.
Absolutely. You got it.
I'm going to go ahead and bow out and hand over to Jody. And if you guys need me back in a few minutes, I'll be happy to come back.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted.
Ted, can you see me?
Yep, you're on, Jody. How are you?
Okay. I'm good.
Good.
I'm tired.
I bet. I was hoping I'd be able to stay through Monday. But like I was telling people earlier, when I was there Friday, the ride back, I got here with an eighth of a tank of gas and $14, so I couldn't afford to stay the whole weekend, unfortunately.
That sounds like where I'm about right now. I'm just getting started. So for those that don't know who I am, I'm Jody Mueller, and I founded the group Parental Alienation Awareness Iowa. I have 3 other groups as well. Parental Alienation Warriors Unite. That's on the back of these shirts, actually. And Make Families Great Again with Adrian Haig from Pennsylvania. And then a page, Erase No More. I started my group. I didn't know, I was like a lot of other alienated parents, I didn't know this was going on with so many people like it is. And I don't know if people know my story, but I was beyond grief. And my first 2 were taken 7 different times, abducted 7 different times. Sometimes it was 2 weeks, sometimes 6. I knew the last time I wouldn't see them again. First time my ex took my children, it was in the middle of a baby shower for my twins in southern Iowa. And there was 30 friends and relatives sitting there. And he showed up unannounced with my older 2 children in the Jeep. I had no idea. They were supposed to be at a babysitter's. And he walked in, asked for some help for a gift for me, and took some of my cousins in the back, told them he was filing for divorce, and that I had to go out and tell people the twins were not his, which they are. I didn't know he had a girlfriend that's a flight attendant, had no idea this was going on. And he asked for my hand. He came out, asked for my hand, said, I want the guest of honor. I knew right then I was in trouble. I actually thought I was going to be killed that day. And he dragged me down the hallway. My cousins were at the door in the bedroom doing this number and crying. So I kind of thought we're all going to be shot. If you knew my history with this man, you probably would have thought so too. But there was a lot of coercive control, manipulation, crazy making, gaslighting going on in my whole marriage. So I didn't go in. He threw divorce papers at me and told me to get out in front of all my friends and relatives, 30 some people, and tell everybody the twins were not his. So he said, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. He went out and pointed at him, said, those aren't mine, especially that one. Pointed to Kylie because she has O positive blood, different than him. So anyone that's with a narcissist, you know, if these kids aren't perfect or just like them, they're nothing. So that's how he treated her. He left. We're all sitting there numb. I'm running into the bathroom. I'm in a fetal position crying. I can't believe this has happened. And about 20 minutes later, I'm kind of coming out of it, and I see other twins standing there. They're 8 years old from Texas in Iowa. They were my friend's daughters. And I grabbed them and said, why are you here? What are you doing here? And they were supposed to be at the sitters with my older 2 children. And I said, what's in the Jeep? And these little girls said, everything. I said, you're supposed to be at a carnival. They said, yeah, he dumped us off in the middle of that town and said he had a present to give you. So he left these other little girls in the middle of a town with no money in 90-degree heat and took off for 2 hours to load his Jeep with my children, brought them back, tortured me in front of all my friends and family, tortured these little 8-year-olds, which I found out later now had PTSD from what he did to them. And my kids were gone is the first day I ever heard those horrible words, it's a civil matter. And it makes me sick when these cops say that, because I didn't know where my older 2 were. They were 2 and 4 years old. So he was on his way to Houston, Texas. I still didn't know. And my friend, that's the mother of the older twins, said, when you get home, everything you own that looks like you have children will be gone. She was married to one just like it that was also a pilot for the same airline. She said, that's what they do. They're going to take everything you own. I got there. My whole house was ransacked. I had a horrible note there. Still didn't know where they were going. He ripped all their names off the wall, took all the photographs. I had nothing. No money. He cleaned out our joint checking account, even took the penny bank. So I had nothing. I was left with 2 babies that had just been home from the hospital for 2 weeks. They were 5 weeks old, preemie twins. No way to feed them, no way to nurse them, because when you're that sick, you can't even eat yourself. So I could not even eat for like 2 weeks. Tried to retain a lawyer. I had to borrow money for that. Like I said, he cleaned out my joint checking account, had no money, had no idea he hadn't paid anything on our vehicle. They took my van. So now I have no way of getting my twins to the hospital that were in need of medical care. So they came and got my van too. So I'm out in the middle of the country with nothing. It was 24 days later, we get to court, and the judge tells him he has 4 days to get the kids back to me. And he says, I hear you think they're not yours. He said, no, I just did that to make her mad. And he says, I'm about to make you mad, because now you're going to get a paternity test, which cost us $700. It's our marital assets. So we had to go together, humiliating. I'm in the car with a kidnapper, scared to death of him anyway. And the judge forces us to go together, an hour and a half drive one way, to find out if these kids are his, which of course they are. And the nurses say to him, we've never in our life seen babies look more like a father than we have today. So they dug even deeper. They said, we don't even dig past 99%. They dug even deeper and said, the one that he doesn't think is his is more his than the other. She's 99.999 his. The other one's 99.997. And they said, we've never seen anything like this, or no man like this. It was horrendous. So I got the kids back. It was 4 days. He made sure of it. He flies for free. But the judge said he had to come back. I said, he flies for free. I bet he doesn't come to Des Moines. He's going to make me suffer and drive to another airport. I always know what he's going to do. Sure enough, he said it's canceled, and I have to drive to Kansas City with these preemies. So I have to drive 3 hours to Kansas City to get them. He's threatening me in the airport. He'd shaved my kid's head so I wouldn't recognize him, my 2-year-old. My daughter, who was 3.5, comes off the plane, and this is where the alienation had already started. And she says, "Mommy, Daddy said that you're a bad mommy. Why are you bad? And that we went on vacation because you're bad." I didn't even know what this was called, was alienation, but that's when it started. So this starts in an intact marriage, not just afterwards. And it just continued. I mean, looking back, I remember reading stories to them, and he'd bust open the door and say, "I was reading the story wrong. He's nuts." And he said, "They're never going to learn this fairy tale." He's done some crazy, majorly crazy behavior, shooting a mouse in the house, so I'd be scared, running my children, hiding under beds. I've had preterm labor because of him. My twins actually flipped in my stomach, and the baby A was coming out, going to be on top of baby B. So now I have to have a C-section that wasn't planned. I was going into preterm labor, and he refused to take me to the airport, to the hospital. I had to drive myself to the hospital, and the doctors telling me, "Get rid of him. You're going to lose these kids one way or the other." I didn't know it was going to be the alienation. I really thought he was just going to end our life. But going forward, I had these kids. I raised them by myself all these years. He saw our children once every 12 to 18 months. That first year, he saw them 3 times, which would have been a total of 6 days. I'd write Christmas letters every year to family and friends that the kids got to see their dad for 3 days this year. The next year they didn't see him at all. He'd call every 8 to 10 weeks, maybe, only asked to speak to my son, sometimes the oldest daughter, never to the twins, ever. So he was alienating the siblings first from one another.
Jody, I think we get the picture that you got a bad, kids had a bad dad, right?
Oh.
Can you talk about the book?
Sorry. This happens all the time to me, Ted.
Can you talk about
Yeah, if you want.
That's what I want people to talk about today.
Okay, I thought I was supposed to tell my story. I guess not. All right, so the courts allow this crap, and they allow men to kidnap your children, or women, kidnap your children,